Ling Han strode into the palace. Hiss, hiss, hiss. A large number of poisonous snakes slithered out and attacked him, but under the barrage of murderous aura, not one of them could get close at all. Their minds all cracked, their souls shattered, and they died soundlessly. The might of the barrage of murderous aura was really too terrifying. With Ling Han's current soul strength, killing core formation tier was as easy as turning over his palm. He effortlessly arrived at the depths of the palace and obtained control of the mystery realm. He also obtained the things that the Ancient Sun Saint had left for him. Ancient Sun Divine Scrolls Core Formation Tier Chapter, as well as 3 natural treasures. These 3 natural treasures were all used to nurture the soul, and could be used to strengthen Ling Han's celestial core after he advanced into the middle stage of the core formation tier. Good. Ling Han instantly felt that this trip had not been in vain. Merely for these 3 natural treasures, it was worth it. He obtained the coordinates of the next and final mystery realm, the honest mystery realm, as well as the method to open it. However, this would require him to advance into the true self tier first. It was no big deal. These 3 mystery realms were only testing to see if Ling Han's battle prowess had declined in this new cultivation level. Thus, as long as Ling Han maintained this freakish performance, passing through the last mystery realm would only be going through the motions. He exited the mystery realm and returned to the Moonlight planet. He didn't contact or meet with Chun Fengyan. Right now, the Dark North Nation had also submitted to the Shadow Moon Majestic Empire. As long as Chun Fengyan wasn't planning to rebel, he would naturally be able to sit firmly on the throne. This nephew of his should be trying to break through to the level of sect master, but it was too difficult to take this step. Thus, several years had already passed, and Chun Fengyan was still in a state of seclusion. Who knew when he would succeed? Ling Han returned to the Tang clan. Although Song Lan and Prosperous Heaven hadn't seen him for 2 days, they would never have imagined that he would actually go to Celestial Sea Planet. After staying in the Tang clan for a few days, Ling Han decided to return to the Nine Suns Holy Land. This matter had already been settled, and he had already seen him, so what was the point of him staying here any longer? Everyone set out, and the Prosperous Heaven also resolved the matter of the Tang clan. In future, the Tang clan could completely appear openly on the Moonlight planet, and the Shadow Moon Majestic Empire wouldn't do anything. Everyone began to traverse through the stars. This time, they were not so anxious. Every time they reached a planet, they would stop and ask around if there were any ancient sites that they could join in on. Unfortunately, there were indeed ancient sites that had opened, but it was either foundation building tier or cauldron forging tier level. The level was too low, so it did not have much benefit for them. Who would do something without benefits? They continued to advance. They were still 3 transfers away from returning to the Nine Suns planet. On this day, after they had rested and reorganized, they arrived at the transfer formation here. Ling Han walked forwards. It was not just their group. There were also a few passers-by that were following him. They too wanted to go to the next planet. 2 people seemed to have had an argument. At first, they were still talking quietly, but very soon it became serious. In fact, there was even a physical conflict. Pong! One of them pushed with all his might, and the other person was sent flying, crashing towards Ling Han. Ling Han stretched out a hand, and a gentle power surged out, stabilizing the person that had crashed towards him. Right at this moment, Shua, the person that he had supported, actually turned around quickly and launched an attack at him. A cold light streaked out, and that was a piercingly cold saber light. At the same time, the few people who seemed to be completely unconcerned previously moved at the same time. They all drew their weapons and attacked Ling Han. This was a planned assassination. However, Ling Han shook his head. The mastermind had underestimated his strength too much. He had actually only mobilized forces of core formation tier. The murderous aura charged towards them. Boom! A thought flashed through his mind. Pa pa pa! Immediately, 3 people fell from the sky and were knocked unconscious. Meanwhile, the remaining 4 people all wore twisted expressions, as if they were experiencing immense pain. Effortlessly, this wave of assassination was easily resolved. Prosperous Heaven and Song Lan moved, apprehending the remaining 4 people. These 4 people weren't weak, but firstly, Prosperous Heaven and Songlan were both extremely powerful in the first place, and secondly, their souls were severely wounded, so their battle prowess dropped drastically. Naturally, they were completely outmatched. Who are you people? Why do you want to assassinate Ling Han? Who commanded you? The large black dog immediately asked. Unexpectedly, these 4 people were quite stubborn and kept their mouths shut. If you don't tell me, I'll feed you guys to the dogs, Hunyo said, hands on her hips. Her expression was filled with fury. They actually dared to kill her Ling Han. The large black dog bared his teeth. He had been innocently implicated. Feed to the snakes. Eldest baby and the others approached excitedly. One of the assassins finally spoke up. However, his expression was filled with arrogance, and he did not have the slightest awareness that he was a captive. He said, "Let me give you a word of advice. Hurry up and release us." "Heh, so you guys can assassinate me again?" Ling Han said with a smile. "Don't worry. As long as people from the Battle God Palace fails and are captured, the mission will be terminated," the assassin said. Then, his tone changed. "However, if you dare to kill members of the Battle God Palace, you're dead. Next, there will be True Self tier elites, Spiritual Transformation tier elites, Sect Master tier assassins. Right until they kill you. The Battle God Palace?" Ling Han was astonished. He had passed the test of the young dragon and obtained the 3 styles of the God of War. This was a saint-level celestial technique. Although it wasn't the complete version, it was indeed extremely powerful. It was one of his most powerful techniques from long ago. Brother Monkey had said before that the 3 styles of the God of War was the ultimate technique of the Battle God Palace. These people actually came from the Battle God Palace? The Battle God Palace was actually an organization of assassins? Ling Han was a little dazed. As for the fact that he was targeted by an assassin organization, there was no need to make a fuss about it because he had offended too many people, and there were a few among them that were rich and imposing, so it was normal for them to hire assassins to deal with him. Battle God Palace. Prosperous Heaven frowned at the same time, appearing very wary. "What do you know about the Battle God Palace?" Ling Han asked. The Battle God Palace is an ancient assassin organization that has produced more than one saint. Prosperous Heaven said first. The Battle God Palace is very terrifying, because they are eternally in shadow. No one knows where their base is, how many people there are, and how many supreme elites there are. This organization specializes in assassination techniques, and it's said that even saints have been assassinated by them. They're extremely difficult to deal with. If it was a head-on confrontation, the Imperial clan would only have to have the saint bring the Imperial weapon, and they would be able to easily destroy it. However, the difficulty lies in the fact that though the Battle God Palace has the word palace, no one knows where their headquarters are at all. It would not be easy to clear them out at all. After innumerable years, this Battle God Palace has always been able to exist. Even the Imperial clan is unwilling to easily offend it. The Imperial clan was indeed awesome, being invincible in a head-on confrontation. However, they were assassins and they didn't engage in a head-on confrontation at all. Instead, they continued to launch sneak attacks from the shadows. Add to that the saint-level assassin kings, and this was indeed enough to give the Imperial clan a headache. "So let us go," the assassin from before said. His face was filled with arrogance, as if he was certain that Ling Han would definitely compromise. How arrogant. Ling Han didn't know what else to say. He had come here to assassinate him, and when he didn't succeed, he still had the audacity to ask others to let him go. Just how thick-skinned was he? "Let us go. We can guarantee that we will give up on this business deal," the assassin said, his face filled with certainty, as if he was certain that he had Ling Han in his grasp. This was natural. They dared to assassinate even the Imperial clan, and even saints had suffered grievances before. Naturally, they would not care about a minor character like Ling Han. "I am in the dark, and I can continuously attack. This is my advantage," and even the members of the Imperial clan would frown at this. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh in spite of himself. "In other words, if there is a request to kill me, you guys would still send someone to take action?" "Naturally. Business is business, the assassin replied without hesitation. All right. Ling Han tapped out a finger. Pa! The assassin's head immediately exploded like a watermelon. This scene directly stupefied the other three assassins. However, after only an instant, they looked angrily at Ling Han. You're dead. Now, even if there is no request, our battle god palace will still kill you. Just you wait. There is no one in this world that can save you. Even if you are the disciple of the Nine Suns' holy land, our killing saint will still barge in with the saint tool and take your life. Ha ha ha. No one can kill a member of our battle god palace. The doors to hell have already been opened for you. The three of them said one after another, as if they were completely unafraid of death. Is that so? Ling Han said calmly. Bring it on. See what I'm afraid of. He stretched out a hand and pressed it on the head of an assassin. He began to search his soul, wanting to know where the battle god palace was. However, he immediately discovered that there was a restriction in this person's mind. It would explode at the slightest touch and destroy that person's mind. As expected, there was no such simple matter. If the battle god palace could be so easily found, would it have stood for millions and millions of years and become a poisonous tumor that even the imperial clans would have a headache over? Ha ha ha. Don't even think of finding out where the battle god palace is. That assassin clearly knew what Ling Han was planning. He laughed loudly. Even if I am willing to tell you, I don't have to say it out loud. As long as you touch this memory, my mind will explode and die. Thus, you should give up this thought and just wait for your death. Ling Han was unmoved. He flicked out a finger and pa, 6 taps shot out. The remaining 6 assassins were also killed by him. Fuck, what he hated the most was being threatened. Furthermore, they had clearly come to kill him, and after failing, they actually wanted to leave boldly. How could there be such a good thing? Brother Ling, Prosperous Heaven and Song Lan both frowned. This wouldn't be easy to deal with. The Battle God Palace was definitely not the strongest force in the world, but the vitality of this organization was extraordinarily tenacious. It was said that there was always a saint keeping watch, and they had always been in the dark. No one knew where exactly this Battle God Palace was. Thus, this assassin organization had the right to threaten the Imperial clan. Because they could only be thieves for 1,000 days, how could one be on guard for 1,000 days? Ling Han smiled calmly. Counter pawns with the king, and water with an earth weir. The Battle God Palace is only a force in the universe. So how could it be that it can blot out the skies single-handedly? The two women shook their heads. This time, the assassins from the core formation tier had failed, so the assassins sent by the Battle God Palace could possibly be the true self-tier elites. If they failed again, they would be the spiritual transformation tier elites, the sect master elites, right until they killed Ling Han. Moreover, these assassins all carried out assassinations, and it was impossible to guard against them. Ling Han smiled faintly. He indeed could let these assassins go, and bear with it for the moment. In future, when his cultivation level had reached a certain level, he would seek revenge. However, firstly, this was out of character for him. If he had a grudge, he would take revenge. If he was bullied, he would immediately slap the perpetrator back. Secondly, he had so many enemies, and if every single one of them went to make a request, how many times would he have to spare the assassins from the Battle God Palace? Hence, this was a dead end that could not be undone. It would be better to be forceful from the very beginning. They rode the transfer formation back to Nine Suns' Holy Land, and the news that Ling Han was targeted by the Battle God Palace also spread on the Galaxy Network. Ling Han believed that this definitely wasn't a leak from Song Lan or Prosperous Heaven. The most likely culprit was the person behind the assassination request, who was already jumping up in impatience. What? Ling Han is actually targeted by the Battle God Palace? Then he's definitely done for. No one who's been targeted by this assassin organization has ever survived. Who asked him to be too arrogant? He's in the limelight too much, and has offended too many people. Going by that theory, I can even hire assassins to kill the Imperial Sun? Hee, that would have to depend on whether the Battle God Palace accepts this request or not. Isn't the Battle God Palace unafraid of even the Imperial clan? You can't say that. The Imperial clan is too powerful, and the Battle God Palace won't actively trifle with them either. Otherwise, when the Imperial clan mobilizes the world to investigate, they'll eventually find some clues. Then, the Saint of the Imperial clan will carry the Imperial weapon to suppress them, and the Battle God Palace will also collapse. That's true. The Battle God Palace is not stupid, and would not bring such great trouble to themselves. Upon entering the Holy Land, Ling Han was met with strange gazes all the way. It was as if they were looking at a corpse. Unless Ling Han never left the Holy Land, once he left, it was possible that he would be assassinated by the Battle God Palace, or if it really dragged on for too long, even the killing saint of the Battle God Palace could possibly move personally. Then, would the Nine Suns Holy Land be able to protect Ling Han? Ling Han returned to his residence and began to think of a strategy. He couldn't hide in the Holy Land forever. In fact, the Holy Land might not even be completely safe. Was it possible to counterattack? This was much too difficult. If the Battle God Palace was so easy to find, how could it have existed for so many years? Then, since he could not destroy this assassin organization, he would have to increase his own strength or the ability to preserve his life. Strength was linked to cultivation level. Even if Ling Han was freakish beyond compare, he couldn't possibly possess the battle prowess of a true self-tier at this time. Moreover, even if he did, so what? It wasn't like Battle God Palace didn't have spirit transformation true lord assassins. Thus, life-saving ability was the most important thing. He had the heavenly Tao flames, and even venerate tier elites had to give him a wide berth. Otherwise, they would definitely die. This was his trump card. Was there anything else? The spiritual Tao fruit could take effect when he suffered a fatal injury, saving his life. There was too little. Ling Han went to the treasure storage of the Holy Land, wanting to start from formations and find another way. Having unleashed might in Cauldron Forging tier, winning glory for the North Heavenly Realm, this naturally also gained great fame for once for the Nine Suns Holy Land. Thus, Ling Han was rewarded with a great many contribution points, which was enough for him to spend lavishly. He flipped through carefully. If he wanted to greatly increase his battle prowess for a short period of time, and turn this into his new trump card, then the only way was definitely through formations. After searching for a long time, Ling Han's eyes suddenly lit up. He hadn't found an astonishingly powerful formation technique, but rather a method to use the power of heaven and earth. This could allow him to borrow the power of heaven and earth. Theoretically speaking, he could borrow the power of the planet and instantly move from the northernmost point of the planet to the southernmost point. Amazing, too amazing. If he could grasp this kind of teleportation, then Ling Han would really be safe. Unless he encountered a terrifying existence like the Saint, who could destroy the entire planet with a single strike, even venerate tier elites would find it very difficult to kill him. However, it was too difficult to master this kind of technique. The requirements for formation mastery were too high, and only the highest grade of Grandmaster could cast this. If this was before in the Nine Suns Holy Land, Ling Han would definitely have only been able to look and sigh in disappointment. However, things were different now. He had gone to the netherworld and raised the strength of his soul to the level of the spirit transformation tier, qualifying him to touch the Grandmaster level. He spent all of his contribution points in an instant, and then obtained the right to study this technique. To learn this kind of technique, there were two things that needed to be done. Firstly, one would have an incredibly profound grasp of formations, and secondly, being able to teleport required one to have a complete understanding of the ley lines. Thus, every time one arrived at a new planet, one would need to once again grasp the ley lines. Hence, this technique itself was not difficult. What was difficult was how to increase the level of formations, and then grasp the ley lines of a planet. Ling Han logged into the Galaxy Network and rented a top-notch time chamber. He wanted to quickly improve his formation skills. This stay lasted for half a year. In the eyes of outsiders, Ling Han was clearly terrified. He knew that there were people from the Battle God Palace waiting to assassinate him outside, so he had been cooped up in his abode for more than half a year. To say nothing of the Holy Land, he didn't even dare to leave his own abode. Rumors flew, and they were all belittling Ling Han. Could not be helped. Previously, he had been too famous. With the cultivation level of Cauldron Forging tier, he had defeated the core formation tier, and even the Imperial Sun could only bow in submission. How many people were envious, jealous, and hateful of him for this? Thus, many pairs of eyes were focused on him, hoping to grab hold of his sore spot so that they could harshly belittle him. This time they had found a chance. However, Ling Han was completely unaware. Half a year had passed in the outside world, so how long had his soul spent on the galaxy network? A whole 25 years. After such a long time, he finally stepped into the Grandmaster level of formations. It was extremely difficult. It was as difficult as ascending the heavens for him to create Grandmaster level formation foundations. However, he didn't need to set up such formations. Instead, it was fine as long as he had this kind of understanding and could control the ley lines. He ended his seclusion, and all of a sudden, his universe coins were completely exhausted. He was now extremely poor. Ling Han naturally didn't regret it at all. Wasn't money used to strengthen his abilities? It was worth it. Without money, he could just earn more. Ling Han returned to reality, and as his feet stepped on the ground, endless enlightenment instantly rose up in him. This planet was different from before. It was as if it had a life of its own, and was breathing. Ling Han closed his eyes and touched it with his soul. If he had only released his divine sense, he would only be able to sense any movement within a 500-kilometer radius. However, it was different now. It was as if he had fused with this planet. Every blade of grass, every tree, every rock, and every drop of water had become his eyes and hands, allowing his senses to endlessly extend. But if that was all, it was not enough for an instant. Ling Han started to capture the ley lines. He viewed planets as living beings, and ley lines were equivalent to the veins of the planet. Thus, after he grasped the ley lines, he could use them to surge and instantly travel from one place to another. His divine sense extended endlessly, penetrating deep into the land's heart. Here, he touched an incredibly ancient willpower. This was the willpower of a planet. Although it was incredibly powerful, it was also filled with primal chaos. It was like a giant infant. By nature, it was clearly powerful, yet it didn't understand anything at all. It was filled with blankness. Ling Han didn't dare to come into contact with this kind of willpower. Although his current spiritual power was powerful, compared to the willpower of a planet, he was nothing but child's play, unable to withstand a single blow. He had grasped the ley lines. There was earth chi surging within, which was incredibly powerful. Ling Han finally understood. If he could teleport on a planet and walk freely, it was because of this earth chi that he was able to traverse through the body of the planet. The path of formations was truly amazing. Ling Han's interest was greatly piqued. He could imagine what kind of might could be unleashed by using this earth chi. No wonder it's said that formation grandmasters can completely be regarded as elites of martial arts. Ling Han nodded. Furthermore, extracting earth chi to temper the body, though its effect on increasing cultivation level is not great, it can strengthen the physique to a chilling extent. The soil of the 5 elements represents defense in the first place. Interesting, truly interesting. Ling Han continued to extend his divine sense, grasping the ley lines of the entire 9 Suns planet. In this way, he felt that this planet was him and he was this planet. Theoretically, he could see every single part of the 9 Sun planet, but in truth, there were too many places that he could not see through at all, as if they were enshrouded in fog. There should be formations in these places, so they blocked his senses. Not only that, but he also saw a few elites. He had just looked over with his willpower when the other party sensed his presence. They shot out a punch and easily destroyed the earth chi, causing him to instantly become blind. Ling Han sighed. The strength of his soul was only at the spiritual transformation tier after all. If he encountered sect master level or venerate tier level elites, he would naturally be discovered. Instant teleportation isn't as easy as I thought. Ling Han frowned. The foundation of this instant teleportation was actually earth chi, but earth chi originated from the ley lines and could be extended to a certain extent. However, it could not possibly seep out too far. Thus, if he wanted to instant teleport, firstly he had to stand near the ley lines. Let's give it a try first. He walked for a while and arrived at a ley line. Then, with a thought, an earth chi wrapped around him. He was gone. This was too amazing. It was clear that the ground was still whole, and there was no pit at all, but he just sank into the ground. It was as if he had fused with the ground. With another thought, he had already appeared from underground, appearing at least 50,000 kilometers away from Nine Suns' holy land. Of course, this place just happened to correspond to a ley line. With another thought from Linghan, he continuously shuttled through this planet. Wonderful, wonderful, this was really too wonderful. In terms of intergalactic travel, he was definitely no match for the Venerate tier elite. The latter could instantly travel millions and millions of miles by tearing a rip into the void. But in terms of traveling on a planet, he should not be inferior to the Venerate tier elite. More importantly, with the ley lines as his eyes and ears, he could sense the killing intent in advance, and from there prepare ahead of time. In this way, even if he wasn't near the ley lines, he could still have time to make arrangements. Can I also teleport away from the ley lines? Ling Han read the information and said that the true formation's grandmasters could teleport anywhere, and did not have to be near the ley lines. He began experimenting, and discovered that this was feasible. That was to wrap himself in earth chi. As long as he could stimulate earth chi, he would be able to teleport. There is a limit to the extension of the earth chi. However, it can be replenished through one's own spiritual power, which connects with the earth chi, forming a passageway that solves the problem of distance. That would have to depend on the strength of my soul. With the strength of my current spiritual power, this distance is about 100 miles. Just barely enough. Right at this moment, a figure appeared out of thin air. Ling Han's first reaction was that the people from the Battle God Palace had charged over. He was already prepared to use the ley lines to escape, but at the same time he was also surprised. He had only mastered this kind of technique for half a day, so how did the people from the Battle God Palace know? But in the next instant, Ling Han was relieved, because the person who had come was not an assassin from the Battle God Palace, but rather the Nine Mountains Venerate. Brat, you've already died once. The Nine Mountains Venerate said solemnly. Ling Han was astonished. Didn't I see through you? Wrong. The reason why the assassins of the Battle God Palace are so hard to guard against is because they are not only good at launching sneak attacks from the shadows, but would also disguise themselves as someone familiar to you, causing you to be unguarded, and then succeed with a single strike. The Nine Mountains Venerate said solemnly. Ling Han nodded, then put on a defensive stance. Then are you in disguise now? The Nine Mountains Venerate instantly laughed. This junior was truly worrisome. He had actually angered the Battle God Palace with a single trip. I really didn't expect that you have actually mastered the star steps. He sighed. In that case, I will be at ease. Even if you are outmatched, you would still have a chance to escape. Star steps. Don't you know that this is called the star steps? Only now did Ling Han know that this kind of technique that borrowed the power of earth chi to move was called the star steps. True, he was walking within the planet, so wasn't it star steps then? Such a young formation's grandmaster. The Nine Mountains Venerate was filled with emotion. Martial arts, alchemy, formations, you're proficient in all of them. You're a prodigy in all of them, so how can there be a freak like you? You're practically a little maniac. Was this a compliment? It could be considered a compliment. Ling Han was extremely shameless, so he nodded and gladly accepted the Nine Mountains Venerate's praise. At first, I had planned to be your Tao protector for a while, but I never thought that a brat like you would actually cultivate the star steps. Now, I can rest assured. The Nine Mountains Venerate continued. Ling Han couldn't help but feel warmth in his heart. Hurriedly, he said, "Thank you for your concern, senior. However, even if you've mastered the star steps, you still can't be careless." The Nine Mountains Venerate said solemnly. The Battle God Palace has been able to move unhindered for so many years, and it's said that there is no one that they dare not or can't kill. This definitely isn't an empty boast. Yes, Ling Han nodded. He naturally could distinguish his good intentions. All right, let's go back. The Nine Mountains Venerate waved his hand, appearing very satisfied. The Battle God Palace was indeed terrifying, But in history, there was no shortage of people who had been ordered to kill by the Battle God Palace. However, in the end, they were still alive and well, and this kind of person had all become a saint in the end. This kind of tribulation and pressure could stimulate a person's potential 100-fold. Thus, as long as Ling Han didn't die, he would definitely be able to become a saint. Ling Han returned to the Nine Suns' Holy Land. At this time, the Empress and the others also discovered that he had come out of seclusion, and all came to see him. I've now cultivated the star steps, and even venerate tier elites would find it difficult to wound me, Ling Han said. They were all family here, so there was no need for him to deceive them. The Empress, the large black dog, and the others all nodded. Though the Battle God Palace had a killing saint, if they still sent out a saint to kill a core formation tier cultivator, then wouldn't the Battle God Palace be too demeaning? Furthermore, the last time the Battle God Palace had failed was only the core formation tier. Who knows, they might even send out the gold medal assassins, ultimate elite assassins, and so on from the core formation tier. When they failed, only then would they send out true self-tier elites. What kind of saint would make a move right away? Everyone relaxed. After a few days, Lin Luo, Zhou Heng, and the others came to bid farewell to Ling Han. They planned to venture into the galaxy. In the Holy Land, though they did not have to worry about the problem of cultivation resources, it could only be considered standard. If they really wanted to obtain such good things like the Ghost Spirit Crystal, the Spiritual Tao Fruit, and so on, they would definitely have to fight for it themselves, and it not be bestowed upon them by anyone. They were all ultimate elites in the Genesis world, so how could they accept being ordinary? Thus, they wanted to go and take a look. Ling Han naturally wouldn't object. He taught them all of the cultivation techniques of the ancient Sun Divine Scroll. Unfortunately, if he could advance to the next level, he would be able to obtain the complete ancient Sun Divine Scroll and teach it in one go. There was no hurry. It wasn't like Lin Luo and the others would never return. After sending Lin Luo and the others off, Ling Han also felt like exercising. Staying in the Holy Land, there was indeed no shortage of resources, but it was also impossible to obtain top-grade treasures. He searched for the location of any martial arts tournament on the Galaxy Network. There was news of ancient ruins opening, but they were all too far away. By the time he arrived, the tournament would have long since ended, and the ancient site would have long since been exploited. He sighed, so bored that his bones were aching. Since that was the case, he would get along well with his beautiful wife, and cherish this kind of peaceful, beautiful time. However, this was destined to be an extravagant hope. After Prosperous Heaven found out that he had come out of seclusion, she immediately ran over, planning to expiate him and bring him into the Buddhist race. This annoyed Ling Han so much that he felt an urge to pummel this holy daughter of the Buddhist race. 2 days later, the large black dog ran over. Little Han, a big event. This despicable dog was very excited. What is it? Have you discovered a female dog that has the same traits as you? Ling Han's mouth was also unforgiving. Shoo! 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 Don't play this kind of dirty joke with Grandpa Dog. The large black dog waved its paw. The resting place of Divine Rain Venerate has appeared. Divine Rain Venerate. A thought flashed in Ling Han's mind, but he wasn't too excited. After all, he had cultivated more than one imperial technique, and grasped quite a few saint techniques, so he naturally couldn't take a Venerate tier-level inheritance too seriously. Of course, if he had the chance, he would definitely take it gladly. Little Han, now you're a frog at the bottom of a well. The large black dog chuckled, and said, Do you know who Divine Rain Venerate's ancestor is? Who? Ancestral King Ling Tian. The large black dog said in an exaggerated tone. Only now did Ling Han feel shocked. Ancestral King. Which also meant, that's right. This Divine Rain Venerate is in possession of the Ancestral King Ling Tian's inheritance. The large black dog's eyes almost popped out of his head. Little Han, just think, the Ancestral King Ling Tian's inheritance. How many treasures are there? He's Ancestral King Ling Tian's only descendant? Ling Han found this strange. That's true, the large black dog said. The Ancestral King Ling Tian's branch has always had few people. Thus, with Divine Rain Venerate's death, the Ancestral King Ling Tian's inheritance was completely severed. Ling Han couldn't help but sigh in pity. Although the Nine-Sun Saint had lost to ancestral King Lingtian and failed to become an emperor, at least there was still the inheritance of the Nine Suns' Holy Land. It was indestructible for all eternity. But what about ancestral King Lingtian? Only a legend was left behind. Thinking about it, it was the same for Brother Monkey. Wasn't the Battle Saint Emperor also an overlord of his own generation? But in the end, his descendant was suppressed at the foot of the mountain. If it was not for the fact that they were afraid that he was not completely dead, Brother Monkey would have been done for 800 years ago. Little Han, are you going or not? Of course I'm going. Ling Han snickered. He was currently so bored that his bones were aching. Ling Han discussed with the Empress and the others, and decided that he still wouldn't bring them along this time. After all, there were assassins from the Battle God Palace outside. Ling Han could take care of himself, but if he still had to bring his family with him, he might not be able to take care of them in time. It was still the Holy Land that was safer. If it was the large black dog, he wasn't Ling Han's relative, so no one knew about him and Ling Han. They only thought that they both came from the Nine Suns' Holy Land. Moreover, he was a demonic beast, so it was unlikely that they would use the large black dog to threaten Ling Han. Where is the resting place of Divine Rain Venerate? Nine Springs Planet, Zimming Mountain. It seems a little far. Should we go and find the Nine Mountains Old Baldy again? Fuck, he's not bald. Ling Han and the large black dog went to find the Nine Mountains Venerate and asked this great elite for help, sending them directly to the Nine Springs Planet. This would save them a lot of time. With how shameless Ling Han and the large black dog were, they naturally wouldn't be too embarrassed to ask. Regarding this, the Nine Mountains Venerate was speechless. These two little guys really didn't treat him as an outsider. However, he was also very optimistic about Ling Han's future prospects. Thus, he did not mind helping Ling Han. When a Venerate tier elite made a move, it was naturally different. Merely 9 days later, they had arrived at the Nine Springs Planet. Senior, are you not interested? Ling Han asked. The Nine Mountains Venerate pondered for a moment, then said, I can't say I'm not interested, but at my cultivation level, I believe even more in karma. If you want me to rummage through the tombs of cultivators of the same cultivation level, then it's possible that Venerate tiers would come to rummage through my tomb in the future. This was just like how even if new ancestral kings appeared, they would not plunder from those imperial clans. They would return the favor generation after generation. Though there were some rules that were not explicitly stated, they were silently adhered to. Of course, if an imperial weapon really appeared in the tomb of Divine Rain Venerate, then to say nothing of Nine Mountains Venerate, even saints would appear and join the battle for it. Whether they would make a move or not would only depend on whether the temptation was strong enough. Moreover, since the treasure had appeared, for Nine Mountains Venerate and the others, it could not be considered as robbing a tomb. Ling Han and the large black dog headed towards the Zimming Mountain. Ling Han immediately began to explore the ley lines here, while the dog checked the news on the Galaxy Network. This time, how many elites had come? Incredible, north, south, east, and west. The young prodigies from the 4 heavenly realms and elites from the older generation have all come. The large black dog called out loudly. Though Divine Rain Venerate himself does not have such great ability, it is very possible that he is related to an Emperor tier inheritance. Even saints would not be able to resist such temptation. This time, it's extremely likely that a saint is hiding in the shadows. Once an imperial weapon or an imperial technique appears, they'll join in on the robbery. The large black dog looked at Ling Han and said, Little Han, could it be that we've worked for so long, yet ended up working for someone else? Ling Han chuckled. So you're quitting? Of course not. No way. The large black dog immediately jumped up again. Ling Han had already grasped the ley lines of the Nine Springs Planet. With a thought, he brought him and the large black dog to the place nearest to the Zimming Mountains. If he went further, it would only be a mere 5,000 kilometers away. Little Han, this move is really convenient. The large black dog nodded. Grandpa Dog also wants to learn it. So it would be convenient for you to steal things? So be it if you know. Why do you have to say it out loud? Not long after, they arrived at Zimming Mountain. This mountain was as tall as the heavens, and was completely purple in color. It was not covered with some kind of purple-colored plants, but rather the mountain rocks were all purple in color, exuding a faint light. Originally, this mountain could not be considered all that mystical. It was just that the mountain rocks were different from other lands. But now, the whole mountain was enshrouded in purple-colored clouds and mists, turning into the appearances of multiple divine beasts. This was not something as simple as looking mysterious, but rather that these divine beasts really had great might, and even venerate tier elites would not be able to break through them. As expected of the descendant of the ancestral king. He's also a venerate tier elite, and his methods are astonishing. What do we do now? We can't enter. Huh? Don't you know that the weaker one's cultivation level, the more unrestricted they'll be? A few days ago, there was a foundation building tier cultivator who could enter. I'm sure that it won't take too long for a cauldron forging tier cultivator to enter. Sigh. I'm a core formation tier cultivator. So how long do I have to wait? I am in true self tier myself. There was a great deal of discussion on the Galaxy network. It was not difficult at all to obtain relevant information. Thus, Ling Han and the large black dog also knew that they could not enter now, and would have to wait for a while. I've mastered a Grandmaster level formation. Would it be able to open a path? Ling Han murmured. He began to make an attempt. This was indeed a formation. At present, Ling Han was not qualified to set it up. However, if it was just to carve out a path, this should still be feasible. Old Black, come. What are you doing? Little Han, if you want to try it out, you can try it out on your own. Grandpa Dog should just wait outside for a while longer. I don't mind at all. Hey, why are you grabbing Grandpa Dog? The large black dog screamed in agony. Ling Han had grabbed him, and he was already walking toward the mist. Boom! Immediately, a divine beast pounced over. This was formed from the energy of heaven and earth. Though it was not a physical body, it was similarly boundlessly terrifying. I'm done for. The large black dog didn't even dare to look anymore. Yet Ling Han stepped down. Wang, stimulated by spiritual power. The heaven and earth immediately underwent a subtle change. He couldn't set up formations with steps, but deactivating formations with steps, and creating a safe path wasn't anything difficult. Boom! This divine beast pounced past him. It was as if there was something wrong with its eyes, and it had missed him by just a hair's breadth. Ling Han smiled, and continued to walk forwards. He saw another divine beast charge towards him. Mother of God! The large black dog continued to wail in agony. After several times, he should have already realized that there was no problem. However, he still couldn't calm down. However, after walking for more than 10 minutes, Ling Han finally walked out of the formation area. Ahead of him was still that purple mountain, but it was no longer enshrouded in clouds and mist. Ling Han tossed the large black dog onto the ground and said, "Blackie, are you done yet?" The large black dog had already begun to howl like a wolf. Hearing Ling Han's words, it finally stopped and scrambled to its feet. We've already entered?" Then, he became excited. "Great Emperor's inheritance. Grandpa Dog is here. Pa pa pa." It broke out into a run and ran forwards. In its mind, only foundation-building tier cultivators could enter at this moment. As a 9 cauldrons, wasn't it powerful enough to suppress all living beings? Ling Han shook his head and followed speechlessly. They soon discovered a cave. It hadn't been broken open for long, and Ling Han could see clearly that the traces of broken mountain rock were very new. Was this the abode where Divine Rain Venerate had passed away? Because the seal on the abode had been accidentally broken, the formation of the Zimming Mountain was triggered, which led to the present situation. "Little Han, quick." The large black dog led the way. "Be careful," Ling Han warned. After all, this was where a Venerate tier elite had passed away. Anyhow, he could easily leave behind a trump card that could insta-kill a core formation tier. Grandpa Dog knows. However, they had not even entered into the cave when they saw 2 people walk out from within. They shouted at Ling Han and the large black dog, "Scram! You are not qualified to enter. Ling Han and the large black dog both faltered upon hearing this. What was going on here? There was a restriction on unauthorized entry here? Grandpa Dog wants to enter. So what? Can you guys stop me? The large black dog said with a chuckle. If you want to die, then come. One of them declared disdainfully. Right now, only foundation-building tier cultivators could enter this abode. As fellow foundation-building tier cultivators, did they need to be afraid? Moreover, there weren't just two of them. There were also a large number of people in the abode. If they all came out, each of them could punch this person and dog into smithereens. Hee. Grandpa Dog really doesn't believe it. The large black dog whistled and walked towards the abode. At the same time, he turned around and warned Ling Han. Little Han, Grandpa Dog will take care of everything here. With the large black dog's personality of bullying the weak and fearing the strong, as well as his fondness of showing off, the present situation was really too suitable for him. You're seeking death. The two foundation-building tier cultivators both humphed and attacked the large black dog at the same time. However, a foundation-building tier cultivator versus a cauldron-forging tier cultivator. Moreover, one was at the level of the 9 cauldrons at that. No matter how one looked at it, this would be a tragedy. The large black dog unleashed his aura lightly. Pa! The two of them instantly collapsed to the ground, feeling as if their hearts were about to jump out of their chests. This was an indescribably agonizing feeling. Brat, watch your eyes. Do you think I'm someone you can trifle with? The large black dog wore a smug expression as he stepped on the two of them. Humph! A mere wild dog dares to strut around? People continuously walked out of the abode. They were all foundation-building tier geniuses from various planets. The large black dog was naturally enraged, and he waved his paw, saying, Little bastards, bring it on. Grandpa Dog will teach you a lesson. The prodigies all charged over, each of them brandishing their spirit tool and unleashing their full power. Lie down. The large black dog unleashed his aura, and under the pressure of the 9 cauldrons aura, pa, everyone collapsed to the ground. Not a single person could get back up. This was suppression on the level of being. No matter how much of a prodigy you were, it was unavoidable, unless you had formed the primitive celestial foundation like Ling Han had. Why, you're a cauldron-forging tier elite. With this, those young prodigies could also tell the large black dog's cultivation level. That's right. Grandpa Dog is a cauldron-forging tier elite. The large black dog said proudly. How is this possible? Those young prodigies were all dumbfounded. By now, only foundation-building tier cultivators should be able to enter. How could cauldron-forging tiers so quickly come in? All of you, hand over what you have found in the abode. The large black dog wore a ferocious expression. Behave yourself. If Grandpa Dog discovers that you dare to hide it, I guarantee that you will all suffer. All the prodigies shook their heads and said that this abode was practically poor and did not have any treasure at all. The large black dog didn't believe them, and he started to search them one by one. No, this sword is my inherited spirit tool. I just bought this celestial medicine on Galaxy Network. This celestial technique was bestowed on me not too long ago by my seniors. Give it back to me quickly, everyone exclaimed. This large black dog was really evil. He would snatch whatever valuable item he saw. He was completely like a gangster and a robber combined. How could anyone possibly take out something that had entered into the large black dog's pocket? However, the large black dog shook his head at Ling Han, expressing that he had really not discovered anything that had originated from the ancient times. Little Han, it's possible that we've all been tricked this time, the large black dog said angrily. Fuck, they had created such a huge commotion, yet in the end, there was nothing at all. Wasn't this a joke? You are Ling Han? Someone recognized Ling Han. At first, they didn't think so, because everyone knew that Ling Han had long since advanced into the core formation tier, so how could he possibly come in? However, the large black dog was a cauldron-forging tier, and called Ling Han Little Han. Even if they didn't believe it, they had to believe it. Haha. So you're the supreme prodigy of the North Heavenly Realm? Unfortunately, being targeted by the Battle God Palace. Your only fate is death. Quite a few people smirked coldly, their animosity towards Ling Han very great. The large black dog was displeased, and he said coldly to the others, "Fuck! You bunch of chickens! You actually dare to look down on my little Han? Humph, we either come from a holy land, or come from a venerate tier force. What is there to be afraid of? To be honest, no one has ever been able to live after the Battle God Palace issued a must-kill order. There's not much time left for you. North Heavenly Realm is the weakest among the 4 great heavenly realms, after all. Your glory is only short-lived this time, and is about to be beaten back to its original state." These people were really arrogant and very stubborn. The large black dog was naturally angered. Even a captive was so arrogant now? It thrashed these people, then tied them up one by one and said, "Aren't these guys from extraordinary backgrounds? Sell them to their own clans, that should be worth a lot of money." The prodigies were astonished, and they were all transfixed with shock. "You guys have robbed us quite a bit and still want to sell us off for money? This was too black-hearted, wasn't it?" Ling Han nodded apprehensively. "This is not a bad idea. Grandpa Dog also thinks it's not bad." It asked Ling Han for the essence-nurturing gourd, and stuffed these people in one by one. "Brats, consider yourselves lucky to be able to strengthen your souls in this kind of treasured gourd. Shouldn't I collect a little protection fee from you?" Then, the large black dog looked towards Ling Han. "Are we just going to leave like this?" Ling Han shook his head and said, "Since we're already here, let's just take a look. Moreover, they didn't discover anything, but it doesn't mean that we wouldn't find anything either." "That's right." Ling Han walked into the abode and began to search carefully. This was an ordinary abode. The difference was that this place had changed the general trend of heaven and earth. It was like the spirit of heaven and earth, and one could see spring water gushing out, bringing with it a dense celestial chi. Merely smelling it would make one's pores open completely, and make one feel comfortable all over. Judging by the furnishings here, there should be 2 people living inside the abode, and it was not Divine Rain Venerate and his Tao apprentice, but rather him and his Tao partner, because they were obviously eating, drinking, and sleeping together. However, these 2 people seemed to have left this place long ago. Ling Han didn't find any clothes. Could it be that this wasn't the place where Divine Rain Venerate had died, but rather a place where he had once lived? Just as Ling Han was about to leave, he suddenly faltered. He had already released his divine sense to stimulate the ley lines, observing this abode from all directions, and now, he suddenly made a discovery. "Little Han, what are you standing around for? Let's go," the large black dog urged. Ling Han shook his head. "Wait, have you discovered something?" The large black dog immediately approached. He knew Ling Han very well. Ling Han nodded. "Don't be anxious." He closed his eyes, and his whole mind and spirit became one with this planet. With the planet as his eyes, he observed the abode, bit by bit, revealing all the details. Very quickly, a smile appeared at the corners of his lips. He walked to the side of a cabinet, then moved it away. Grandpa Dog has seen this place, but there are no hidden doors behind it. The large black dog couldn't help but say. He didn't want Ling Han to waste his time. Ling Han shook his head. "Don't be impatient." He continuously tapped on the wall, and his spiritual power drew on the power of heaven and earth. Multiple formation patterns actually appeared on the wall. "Fuck! You can do this?" The large black dog immediately shouted. It had clearly examined this wall, and there was nothing strange about it. However, in Ling Han's hands, multiple patterns appeared, so how could it not be shocked? "This is an entrance that has been concealed by a formation," Ling Han said. "However, according to my deductions, even if I don't break through it, this entrance will appear on its own in a very short period of time." "The same time that the formation outside dissipates?" the large black dog asked. Ling Han nodded and said, "That's probably the case. The formation of the entire Zimming Mountain seemed to be one and the same. Thus, when the formation enshrouding the outside disappeared, all the mechanisms and restrictions here would also lose their effects. Grandpa Dog is here for the inheritance of the great emperor," The large black dog rubbed its paws together, appearing very excited. In future, Grandpa Dog will also become an ancestral king or great emperor. Mortals, tremble in front of Grandpa Dog. Ling Han laughed loudly. If you ever became an emperor, that would be a vile character getting his own way. The heavens are really too blind. Go, go, go. Hurry up and break the formation. The large black dog waved his paws, looking like he couldn't be bothered to deal with Ling Han. Very quickly, Ling Han broke through this formation, and a revolving doorway of light appeared on the wall. Little Han, will this be dangerous? The large black dog asked Ling Han. Ling Han spread out his hands and asked, "How should I know? Grandpa Dog has a solution." The large black dog grabbed a person from the essence nurturing gourd and threw him into the doorway of light. Shwa, that unlucky guy, was thrown in, but there was no terrifying event like his body being crushed by the doorway of light. There should be no problem. The large black dog nodded. Ling Han laughed and walked towards the doorway of light. Not only was the primal chaos extreme lightning tower floating above his head, but even the starlight screen had been activated, activating his strongest defense. He stepped through the doorway of light, and an indescribable power surged out. He appeared on a desolate plain. The person who had been tossed in by the large black dog was lying on the ground, still unconscious. However, Ling Han looked behind him, and there was no doorway of light. This was a one-way transmission. He tried to contact the large black dog, but discovered that this place could not connect to the galaxy network. And this should be a mystery realm that was cut off from the rest of the world. No wonder Divine Rain Venerate and his Tao partner's change of clothes couldn't be seen in the abode outside. As it turned out, this place was connected to another space. Ling Han walked further away, and true enough, after only a while, a large black dog appeared out of thin air. "Little Han, where is this?" The large black dog exclaimed in shock. Is this a mystery realm?" "You guessed correctly." Ling Han nodded, closed his eyes slightly, and began to search the ley lines here. He immediately discovered that there were pitifully few ley lines here, and the earth chi here was also incredibly weak. This place seemed to be missing something. As a formation grandmaster, Ling Han was sensitive enough to discover that there was something missing in this heaven and earth. But as for what exactly it was, he could not say. This must be because my cultivation level is not high enough. And linked to my cultivation level, that can only be the regulations of heaven and earth. What is missing here should be the regulations of heaven and earth. Under normal circumstances, how could there be no regulations of heaven and earth? Thus, it is very possible that this is a small world created by a great elite, so the regulations are incomplete. Just like the White Lotus Mystery Realm. Though the people there cultivated extremely fast, firstly, their lifespans were limited, and secondly, the true self tier was their limit, and they could not advance any further. In terms of cultivation techniques, there was no shortage of high-level cultivation techniques. Thus, since spirit transformation tier was unable to appear, it could only be assumed that it lacked the corresponding regulations of heaven and earth. Ling Han related his deduction to the large black dog, and the large black dog nodded. Thus, this mystery realm must be a small world like that, and that is why the signal to the galaxy network is cut off. More or less. Since there's no turning back now, let's continue forward. The large black dog stuffed the person on the ground back into the essence nurturing gourd, then followed Ling Han's footsteps. The energy of heaven and earth here is very weak, so it's probably impossible for any powerful elites to appear, the large black dog said as he walked. "Oh, that's right. Do you have any chance of attaining 10 cauldrons?" Ling Han changed the topic. "Sigh, it's hopeless." The large black dog shook its head and said, "I've already tried for half a year, yet there's still no hope at all. Little Han, only a freak like you can reach 10 cauldrons. Grandpa Dog is only SOSO, just barely passable, and a fusion cauldron from 9 cauldrons is enough. When the 9 cauldrons fused together, they would be on the level of Imperial Son and Imperial Daughter, all right? Furthermore, it was not every Imperial Son and Imperial Daughter that could successfully fuse the 9 cauldrons. This large black dog was really showing off. Ling Han smiled faintly. All right, I'll see if I can help you create the fusion cauldron. The man and dog walked on this desolate plain, their speed very fast. Merely half an hour later, they had walked out of the desolate plain, and a mountain range appeared ahead of them. It was a continuous chain of mountains, covered by green plants, exuding an exuberant vitality. I can finally see signs of life. Grandpa Dog was almost scared to death. I thought this place was a land of death. The large black dog patted his chest. After they had climbed over the mountain, they saw a city appear before their eyes. It was rectangular in shape and was surrounded by city walls. Furthermore, there was also a moat of water outside the city walls, but what flowed in the river was no ordinary river water, but rather blue lightning. This was very awesome, wasn't it? There was actually a river comprised of lightning? Little Han, this place doesn't seem simple. There might be a local tyrant, the large black dog said. Are you comparing yourself to a powerful dragon? Ling Han asked with a smile. Wrong. We are ferocious dragons crossing the river, capable of toppling mountains and overturning seas. The large black dog boasted shamelessly. Ling Han shook his head and took the lead. He had already gained a preliminary grasp of the ley lines here. Though the earth chi was weak, which would greatly decrease his mobility, it could still be used in the end. However, there were pitifully few ley lines here, only a dozen over. This greatly limited Ling Han's vision, because his divine sense also had to be extended through the ley lines. Thus, he was also seriously lacking in understanding of this mystery realm. Otherwise, with a sweep of his divine sense, the general structure of a planet should be in his mind. Wait for Grandpa Dog. The large black dog hurriedly followed behind him. Very soon, they arrived at the city gates. There was a suspension bridge laid down here, and they could safely pass over the lightning river. They could clearly see that the power of lightning would occasionally soar into the skies with a terrifying momentum. However, neither Ling Han nor the large black dog took this to heart. Its might was only that of foundation building tier, so even if they entered the river, they could completely treat it as a bath. There were guards at the city gates, and there were quite a number of them. Stop! Immediately, a soldier stretched out a hand towards them and shouted loudly. With these words, Ling Han's heart calmed considerably. It was human language and he could understand. Ling Han stopped as instructed, appearing to be very cooperative. Entering the city will cost 10 Dao commands, the soldier said. Dao commands? With Ling Han's intelligence, he naturally could immediately guess that the Dao commands was the currency of this place. However, he had just arrived here, so where would he get this thing? Ling Han smiled. This brother, you see, I am just a herb gatherer. I have just gone out and spent all my Dao commands. So how about I use herbs as compensation? Sure, the soldier said. Ling Han pretended to fumble around in his luggage. Yet through his spatial tool, he found a celestial medicine of the lowest level. Then he took it out. Could not be helped. With the height he was at now, the medicinal ingredients that he could store away were naturally celestial medicines. Godly medicine. The moment Ling Han took out the celestial medicine, the soldier's eyes almost popped out of his head. What? When the other soldiers heard the news, they all ran over. When they saw the medicinal herb that was exuding a soft red light in Ling Han's hand, they could no longer maintain their composure. This celestial medicine was really very ordinary. It was left over from when Ling Han had concocted alchemical pills previously, and could not possibly be used in future. However, he had obviously underestimated the cultivation level of this place. It should be known that these soldiers were only mystery realm tiers, and had not set foot on the celestial path. How could they not be shocked when they saw the celestial medicine? Ling Han gritted his teeth. He had thought that he had taken out an ordinary celestial medicine, but in the end, these people's level was too low, and they had all been shocked silly. Forget it. In any case, it was not valuable to him, so he wouldn't feel heartache even if he gave it away. Captain! Captain! Captain Qin! The soldiers all stepped aside, and then a middle-aged man with a large belly walked over. He looked to be in his 40s and was also a mystery realm tier. This captain was very good at putting on airs. As he walked, he swayed back and forth, appearing very overbearing. Captain Qin snatched the celestial medicine from the hands of the soldier. His eyes swept over it, and a greedy expression instantly appeared on his round, fat face. Then he looked towards Ling Han. How could such an ordinary medicinal herb be enough? At least 10. When the soldiers heard this, they all shook their heads secretly. Looks like their captain was going to screw someone over again. Could not be helped. Who asked his daughter to marry into such a good family? Even if he was a tyrant, so what? No one could deal with him. Ling Han smiled. Looks like he had taken out this celestial medicine too easily. Naturally, others would think that he had even more celestial medicines on him, and their quality was even higher. This was called having already revealed his wealth. Furthermore, Ling Han hadn't revealed any background. So who else would they rip off if not a fat sheep like him? Fuck! You actually dare to scam us? The large black dog immediately jumped up. It has only ever been Grandpa Dog that would be slaughtering others. A mere mystery realm tier like you dares to be insolent in front of Grandpa Dog. Demonic beast. Captain Qin's expression changed drastically, and he took a few steps back. There was a look of shock on his face, and the other soldiers didn't look any better. They all looked terrified. Was that really necessary? The large black dog stood up on his hind legs and asked, "What is it? Do you want to fight?" Captain Qin laughed loudly and said, "Brat, you actually dare to collude with a demonic beast? Even if a heavenly king comes, he won't be able to save you." In his eyes, this was a chance, and he could use this opportunity to apprehend Ling Han and confiscate all his property. Couldn't the people here be associated with demonic beasts? Guards, apprehend this human and demon pair. Captain Qin retreated on his own, one hand pointing at Ling Han, while the other hand gripped tightly onto the celestial medicine. Although the soldiers were afraid of the large black dog, a demonic beast, they didn't dare to retreat. They all raised their weapons and aimed them at Ling Han and the large black dog. To be more precise, most of the weapons were targeted at the large black dog, and thought that it was more dangerous. The people here seemed to have an extraordinary fear and disgust towards demonic beasts. The large black dog stood on his hind legs, hands on his hips. "Come on then. Grandpa Dog isn't afraid of trash like you. It would definitely not miss out on a place where it could show off. Go charge." Captain Qin had already retreated to a place that he thought was safe enough, and began to order around again. The soldiers were exasperated, so they could only grit their teeth and charge over. However, the large black dog merely sent a palm strike over, and pa, everyone collapsed to the ground, groaning and moaning. Of course, this was because the large black dog had held back. Otherwise, how could it be that a 9 cauldrons wouldn't have been able to insta-kill a bunch of mystery realm tiers? Captain Qin was almost scared out of his wits by this scene. As he ran into the city, he shouted loudly, "Beast attack! Beast attack! The demonic beast is here." One could not help but be impressed. Even in such a state of fright, his hand was still tightly gripping onto that celestial medicine, as if he would not let go even if he died. Ling Han smiled, and his spiritual power transformed into a large hand that grabbed Captain Qin by force. Captain Qin's legs were still moving rapidly, but his figure was retreating. Captain Qin was scared out of his wits, and his face became as white as a sheet. "Hand it over!" The large black dog snatched the celestial medicine back and tossed it over to Ling Han. "Give me back my celestial medicine!" Captain Qin screamed, brandishing his claws, wanting to fight Ling Han to the death. It was really rare to see someone who was so greedy that he was not afraid of death. "Do you know who I am?" His eyes were red as he shouted at Ling Han. Ling Han smiled. "I really don't know. I am Qin Buotao, and my son-in-law is Lu Long." Captain Qin called out loudly. "Lu Long, do you know that he is the supreme prodigy of the Lu clan, and has already been bestowed the title of 5th grade guard by His Majesty, the Emperor?" The large black dog approached and examined Qin Buotao closely. Then he said to Ling Han, "With how this guy looks like, how good-looking can his daughter be?" This Lu Long shouldn't be all that impressive either, right? Hey, my daughter is as beautiful as a celestial maiden, Qin Buitao hurriedly argued. Ling Han and the large black dog exchanged a glance before shaking their heads in unison. The large black dog added, "If your daughter is really as beautiful as a celestial maiden, then she must be the child of the old man next door. Fuck. How could a demonic dog like you be so vicious?" Qin Buitao trembled in anger. In truth, he would also occasionally mull over how he could give birth to such a beautiful daughter with his appearance. He could only console himself that his child looked like her mother. Humph. A demon and a demonic beast actually dare to invade our golden fetus city. A voice filled with a murderous aura rang out, and a man in full armor also strode out. There were celestial chi entwined around him, making him appear incredibly handsome. "Son-in-law, save me. Save me." When Qin Buitao saw this, he hurriedly waved his hand and called out. This man was none other than Lu Long, a well-known prodigy of martial arts. In fact, he had even gained the attention of the sovereign of the Galewind nation, and bestowed the title of 5th grade city guard on him. For a young man who was only 24 or 25 years old, this was an honor. Lu Long showed a hint of disgust. Towards his beautiful wife, he really liked her, but towards this money-grubbing, materialistic father-in-law, he absolutely detested him. "Let him go," he said coldly. "What if I don't?" The large black dog bared its teeth and asked. "Then you can all die with him," Lu Longhu said balefully. "Fuck, this son-in-law is really two-faced." The large black dog patted Qin Buitao. "This son-in-law of yours is clearly using provocation tactics, wanting us to kill you in a fit of anger. Sai, he probably has his eye on your wife and wants to take in both mother and daughter. TSK. 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 Too vulgar." Qin Buitao thought about it. This son-in-law really had the suspicion of using someone else to do his dirty work. He knew that Lu Long had always disliked him, but no matter what, he was still Lu Long's father-in-law. His thoughts were really too vicious, weren't they? Meanwhile, Lu Long's expression changed drastically. He had indeed thought of using someone else to do his dirty work, but now that the large black dog had exposed him in public like this, he naturally couldn't bring himself to accept it. "You're seeking death." He charged over, celestial chi overflowing from all over his body, like a god that had descended into the mortal world. Neither Ling Han nor the large black dog took it to heart, because Lu Long had only just reached the foundation building tier. A cold smile tugged at the corners of Lu Long's lips. "Humph, you actually dare to look down on me? Then I'll kill all of you with a single strike. As for this father-in-law of mine, I'll naturally kill him as well. My excuse is also very open and above board. It's inevitable that there will be accidental injuries." Qin Buitao didn't dare to look anymore. He closed his eyes tightly. Pa! He suddenly heard a heavy sound, as if something heavy had fallen. He opened his eyes, yet shockingly discovered that Lu Long was actually kneeling on the ground. What was going on here? In truth, Lu Long was even more stunned than he was. He delivered a great blow, but all of a sudden, an indescribable fear rose up in him. Then he knelt on the ground, completely baffled. Was this because of the man in front of him? He raised his head to look at Ling Han, only to see that Ling Han was about the same age as him. In fact, Ling Han was even younger than him. How could he possess such unfathomable strength that he couldn't even resist? This was absolutely unbelievable. How dare you, to actually dare insult the prized son of our Lu clan? A loud shout rang out, and an old man rode a weapon over. With a show, his figure descended. He looked to be quite old, his face covered with a white beard, and even his hair was grayish-white. This was the strongest elite of the Lu clan. His name was Lu Kuei, and he had already advanced into the cauldron forging tier. However, his lifespan was also nearing its end. It wasn't easy for him to wait until a prodigy appeared in his clan that had stepped onto the celestial path. This gave the Lu clan hope of having a successor. At that time, he could also enjoy life in peace and rest easy on his way to the afterlife. But who would have expected that there would be such a calamity today? A demonic beast actually brought a villain with it and trampled all over the prodigy of the Lu clan. However, the large black dog ignored him. Instead, he looked at Qin Buotao and said, "Old brother, what do you say we do with this brat?" Qin Buotao's expression was filled with awkwardness. Just now, his son-in-law had wanted to get rid of him as well. With his cold-blooded nature, he naturally wanted nothing more than to get rid of him as well. However, the reason why he could have his current status was completely because of the Lu clan and Lu Long. Without this son-in-law, what was he worth? "Lord Demonic Dog, please be magnanimous and spare me and my son-in-law," he hurriedly said with a smile. "Old Qin, you really don't have any backbone at all." The large black dog shook his head. "Sigh. If worst comes to worst, you can just start all over again. You are still young. Even if you want to have another beautiful daughter, it would be completely in time. Furthermore, your daughter can just remarry." Both Qin Buotao and Lu Long's faces turned green. This damn dog's mouth was really too despicable, wasn't it? "Let him go," Lu Kuei shouted with forced patience. If it was not for the fact that Lu Long was still in Ling Han's hands, he would have made a move long ago. "What if I don't?" The large black dog wouldn't lose to anyone verbally. Shua, Lu Kuei immediately charged towards the large black dog. He did not dare to touch Ling Han, because he was afraid of harming Lu Long. However, the large black dog did not have any hostages in his hands. Furthermore, he could also capture the large black dog and use him as hostage to trade with Ling Han for Lu Long. The older one was, the wiser they were. He knew that he definitely could not allow Ling Han to lead him by the nose. "You actually dare to make a move on Grandpa Dog? Where did you get such courage from?" The large black dog humphed. Boom! The aura of 9 cauldrons exploded. Pa! Instantly, Lu Kuei's body shook, and he fell directly onto the ground. He was only an earth cauldron, and was too far away from 9 cauldrons. Not only could he not withstand a single blow, he was unable to withstand merely the aura alone. At this, whether it was Lu Kuei, Lu Long, or Qin Buotao, their expressions all changed drastically. Not good. This demonic dog's strength was heaven-defyingly strong. There was no one in Golden Fetus City that could subdue it, and they had to seek help from the imperial capital. "Come, Grandpa Dog will ask a question, and you all have to answer. Otherwise, don't blame Grandpa Dog for being impolite. I will cut off your manhoods and feed them to others." The large black dog threatened fiercely. Lu Kuei and the others were already completely intimidated, and nodded numbly. The large black dog started to ask questions. They were all about the mystery realm, such as the distribution of forces, the overall level of cultivation of the mystery realm, and whether there were any treasures. Lu Kuei and the others said everything they knew. This mystery realm had not been named by the natives. However, the territory occupied by humans was called the Galewind Nation, and correspondingly, there was the territory ruled by the demonic beasts. This was not a unified kingdom, but was rather divided into a dozen overscattered forces. However, every large demonic beast led a force that was not inferior to the human race. Thus, the situation of the human race was not very good. They could only hide in the city, and did not dare to barge into the territory of the demonic beasts at all. Because demonic beasts were aggressive, demonic beasts would often attack the territory of humans, attempting to conquer the territory of humans, reducing humans to slaves and rations. However, after so many years, humans had always stood firm, which was proof of their toughness. In this place, the strongest was the true self-tier. Whether it was humans or demonic beasts, none of them could surpass this barrier. The large black dog sent a message through divine sense to Ling Han, saying, "Little Han, do you think there's an ancestral king inheritance here?" Ling Han frowned upon seeing this. Although this was a small world, its territory was extremely vast. If he wanted to search this whole place, perhaps 10,000 years wouldn't be enough. If Divine Reign Venerate really left behind an inheritance, then there would definitely be clues, he said slowly. "Then should we go to the imperial capital now?" the large black dog asked. "All right," Ling Han nodded. "Then what about these people? Just minor characters. There's no need to pay attention to them." "All right," The large black dog ransacked all three of them. The currency circulating here was Dao commands, but it was actually a currency forged from a rare metal. It was extremely difficult to forge because there was a clear cost. The fake currency created were actually also worth a lot of money. He found a total of over 30,000 Dao commands on the three of them. The majority came from Lu Kuei, and they were in notes of 5,000. He had a total of 6. The large black dog waved his paw and said, "Let's go, little Han. Grandpa Dog will treat you." Ling Han laughed loudly and left with the large black dog. By now, they had a comprehensive understanding of the Galewind nation, so they naturally knew the way to the imperial capital. However, demonic beasts ran rampant on their way, launching attacks at them at the drop of a hat, not giving the large black dog any face at all. Could not be helped. The man and dog walking together was practically in a dilemma. They were both seen as traitors by the humans, yet were not accepted by the demon race either. Thankfully, they were strong enough, and after spending half a day's time, they had also arrived at the imperial city of the Galewind nation. The large black dog transformed into a sturdy man. Right now, he didn't want to cause any trouble either. The two people arrived at the city gates together, and were just about to hand over their coins to enter into the city, when a shield of light descended, landing on the large black dog. Instantly, the large black dog's true form appeared. The large black dog appeared in its true form, and instantly, a commotion broke out at the city gates. In this mystery realm, humans and demon race were completely incompatible like fire and water. Whenever they met, it was as if they were meeting an enemy that had killed their father. Thus, the sudden appearance of a demonic dog at the city gates of the imperial capital was naturally going to cause chaos. Was the demon race about to attack? Everyone was in danger. Though the demonic beasts were sent retreating every time they invaded, and were unable to eliminate the human race, they had indeed caused massive damage. Thus, everyone was traumatized, and the first reaction they had when they saw the demonic beasts was there was going to be another invasion. Enemy attack. Full alert. Activate the Great Formation. There was an uproar, and it could not be resolved. Ling Han looked upwards of the city gates. There was a mirror hanging there, and it was precisely this mirror that had shot out light, enshrouding the large black dog. It was because of this that the large black dog had revealed its true form. This should be a spirit tool, possessing the ability to see through falsehoods. Meanwhile, the large black dog was extremely innocent. He had only wanted to sneak into the city, and had completely no intention of invading. And now, he had become the public enemy? In just a short while, a large number of soldiers had already rushed out of the city, all of them holding crossbows. Then they aimed at the large black dog. Hee, Grandpa Dog bears no malice. Don't be rash. The large black dog stood on his hind legs and smiled at the people around him. It would have been fine if it had not smiled. He would just be an ordinary demonic dog, but this smile was filled with a despicable intent, causing one to involuntarily want to pummel it. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Suddenly, a sky full of arrows shot towards the large black dog. Fuck! Who did Grandpa Dog offend? The large black dog hurriedly dodged. Though these soldiers were very ordinary, the arrows they used were extraordinary arrows, which made even it feel threatened. The large black dog used the imminent skyline, and its speed even surpassed the average core formation tier cultivator. Naturally, not a single arrow hit it. I already said that Grandpa Dog has no malicious intent. If anyone dares to shoot Grandpa Dog again, Grandpa Dog will not be reserved, the large black dog declared angrily. However, no one paid any heed to it, and another barrage of arrows that filled the skies arrived. Grandpa Dog is angered now, the large black dog roared. It was about to launch a counterattack. Ling Han opened his mouth and said, "Everyone, this is a demonic dog that I have raised. It will not hurt anyone." The large black dog almost bit him. This guy actually dared to take advantage of him. He was too despicable. However, they had come for the great emperor's inheritance, and they were completely clueless now. Thus, it was best not to cause trouble so that they could slowly investigate. Thus, the large black dog still held back. Shoo, shoo, shoo. However, not only did the rain of arrows not stop, some arrows even shot towards Ling Han. Ling Han frowned. He stretched out a hand and pressed down. The rain of arrows that shot over all stopped, and then fell simultaneously onto the ground. Even if these arrows were fired through a spirit tool, what level could an arrow fired by a spirit tool fired by a mystery realm tier who had not yet entered the celestial path reach? With how strong his battle prowess was, he was naturally able to press them down easily. This time, it also caused those soldiers to lose their wits in shock, and involuntarily lowered the crossbow in their hands. This was too shocking. Was he still human? Humph! Are you also a member of the demon race in disguise? A person arrived in midair. It was a man in his 30s, dressed in military attire, appearing to be extraordinarily heroic. Seven Winds Marquis. Greetings, Lord Marquis. Those soldiers hurriedly knelt, their expressions extremely respectful. The Seven Winds Marquis Su Liang was the Marquis of the Galewind Nation. His cultivation level was at the core formation tier, and he stood in the second tier of cultivation here. Could be said that he was quite extraordinary. Su Liang stood with his hands clasped behind his back. You two members of demon race are so bold, to actually want to sneak into the city. Your dog eyes are really blind. Don't you know what kind of place this is? These words instantly angered the large black dog. What did he mean by dog eyes are really blind? You clearly saw Grandpa Dog, yet still dare to deliberately say dog eyes. What kind of provocation was this? Shorty, are you seeking death? The large black dog said with a grimace. Su Liang's appearance was average, but his shortcoming was that he was a little short. This was also something that he was more wary of, and disliked others mentioning his height the most. A furious expression appeared on his face, and he stretched out a hand to grab the large black dog. His mystical power condensed into a large green hand that was several meters tall. It was covered densely with seals, and it was very powerful. Lord Marquis is mighty. All the soldiers immediately cheered, cheering him on. The large black dog didn't dare to face it head-on. Although it was a 9 cauldrons couldn't possibly match the early stage of the core formation tier. What more when Su Liang was in the late stage of the core formation tier, which was not just a little bit stronger than it. Little Han, hurry up and help me. It hurriedly used imminent skyline, dodging this attack. Su Liang delivered another blow. This time, Ling Han did not just sit by and watch. Instead, he moved as well, and with a light pat, dispersed this blow from Su Liang. This caused Su Liang to frown. This demon was extraordinary. Which demon race are you from? He shouted. He had to find out which demon race the other party came from. Only then would he be able to know which demon race might be invading, so that he could prepare his defenses in advance. Ling Han shook his head and said, I've already said this before. I'm a human. Ha ha. Regarding this, Su Liang merely smirked coldly. Little Han, this guy can't be persuaded at all. Just move and apprehend him. The large black dog advised. All right. Ling Han nodded. This conversation naturally enraged Su Liang. Fuck, you guys are really looking down on him, the Seven Winds Marquis, too much, aren't you? He was in the late stage of the core formation tier, and the aura that seeped out from Ling Han was only in the early stage of the core formation tier. There was a gap of a whole 2 minor levels between the two of them, and it was practically a one-sided suppression. Ha ha! How preposterous! He said coldly. With a flash, he charged towards Ling Han. Ling Han cracked a smile, and said softly, Kneel! Pa! Su Liang's aura instantly vanished completely, and his whole person fell from midair. His legs knelt on the ground, releasing a heavy, muffled sound. It was a solid sound. At first, those soldiers were still cheering for Su Liang, but this scene had happened too suddenly. A great many people could not stop at all and were still shouting there. In the end, it was as if they were cheering for Ling Han. The dignified late-stage core formation tier elite was actually dealt with by Ling Han before he could even make a single move. This demon race was too terrifying. The true self tier, it must be the true self tier. Humph, insolent demonic beast. You actually dare to behave atrociously in my imperial capital. Another figure streaked through the air and arrived. He was obviously much stronger than Su Liang. There were regulations entwined around him, turning into multiple divine chains of order. The true self-tier. Ling Han thought to himself. He was also very curious. With his current abilities, how many moves could he take from a true self-tier elite? It was impossible to match him, but he had the barrage of murderous aura and star steps, which allowed him to have the ability to contend with the true self-tier. See City King. Instantly, all the soldiers cheered loudly, their expressions incredibly fanatical. See City King Qian Lang, the ultimate elite of the true self-tier. Qian Lang did not say another word, and immediately delivered a palm strike towards Ling Han. Mystical power manifested, turning into a bronze sledgehammer. The body of the sledgehammer was entwined with dense regulations, which was boundlessly terrifying. The murderous aura charged forwards. With a thought from Ling Han, his attack arrived first. The murderous aura attack was divine sense level, and with a single thought, the attack would arrive. Qian Lang instantly felt a pain in his head, and felt as if a foreign divine sense was invading, wanting to overturn his mind, causing extreme damage. He hurriedly went to suppress it. In this way, the attack he delivered immediately slanted, and lost its accuracy. Boom! This attack landed, yet it didn't even touch a single hair on Ling Han's head. What? Qian Lang was shocked. Was this guy really a core formation tier cultivator? He could actually affect him? Then if he advanced into the true self tier, wouldn't he be unable to survive even a single move from him? He swept an eye over Su Liang, who was kneeling on the ground, and actually gave an "oh" in his heart. No wonder this person had knelt down. It was not because he was cowardly and weak, and had surrendered to the demon race, but rather his divine sense had been affected, and he had no choice. Terrifying, what kind of demonic beast was this? Could it be that it was the legendary divine beast, and that was why it had such might? However, humph. No matter what, he was only a core formation tier cultivator, which was good. He had to quickly get rid of him while he was still weak. Otherwise, he would definitely become a great problem in the future. Qian Lang moved again, stretching out his right hand. Boom! This time he was really going all out. Regulations materialized, turning into multiple divine chains of order that shot towards Ling Han. This was formed from regulations, and could be claimed to be indestructible. If he was hit head-on, his physical body would definitely be directly pierced through, and then he would be tied up by the divine chains, unable to escape. Ling Han immediately turned around. Using the imminent skyline, he grabbed the large black dog and started to flee. In an instant, he had already disappeared without a trace. Qian Lang couldn't help but be startled. He had never imagined that Ling Han and the large black dog would come to the imperial capital so arrogantly, and actually run off just like that. He chased for a few steps before immediately stopping. He could not give chase. What if this was a trap that the demon race had dug out for him? Then, if he gave chase, that would be equivalent to falling into a trap. Your Highness is mighty. Your Highness is domineering. All the soldiers did not know of Qian Lang's reservations. They only saw that Qian Lang had chased off the two members of the demon race, so they naturally raised their weapons and shouted in unison. Qian Lang showed an expression of pride, as if everything was as it should be, but internally, an alarm bell rang. Just who exactly was that member from the demon race that had not revealed his true form? His spiritual power was too terrifying, that even he felt pressured. It could be said that, in terms of pure spiritual power, he was definitely no match. Ling Han brought the large black dog with him and fled into the distance. If there was no need, he had no wish to show off his star steps. This was his trump card. The location of the imperial capital just happened to be one of the few ley lines exits in this place. Damn it! Why is there a demonic mirror hanging at the city gates? The large black dog cursed. If it was not for that thing causing trouble, he and Ling Han would have long since snuck into the city, so how could they have fled? It's all right. Later, I'll just sneak in alone. Ling Han smiled. He didn't know where the inheritance of divine reign venerate was, so he had only wanted to enter the city to scout around and see if there were any clues. All right, be careful, brat. The large black dog nodded. Ling Han changed his appearance and soul fluctuations, and returned to the city gates of the imperial city. Because the matter of the demonic beast wanting to sneak into the city had just happened, the inspection here was considerably stricter now. However, this did not have any effect on Ling Han. He was a human in the first place, and under the effects of the soul-forming technique, the fluctuation of his soul was completely different. Unless it was someone's sect master level and above, he would not be able to sense anything off. After paying the entrance fee into the city, he entered into the imperial capital. First, he found an inn to stay in. Then, he used the hide of the void beast as cover, and quietly entered into the imperial palace to search for clues. Listening to the discussions of the people in the palace, they were either discussing which imperial prince would inherit the throne, or discussing the threat of the demonic beasts. There was no mention of divine reign venerate's inheritance, what more the ancestral king's inheritance. However, Ling Han heard someone grumble that it had something to do with opening the sky. This small world giant could still soar? Obviously not. This wasn't the Genesis world. Ling Han entered the Imperial History Pavilion. This place was heavily guarded, and aside from the core members of the imperial family, even the Empress and the imperial princes were not qualified to enter. What secrets were hidden here? Ling Han took a look. It was nothing more than some cultivation techniques and martial arts techniques, but there was nothing especially profound. There was also a chronicle about this mystery realm. This piqued Ling Han's interest, and he immediately started to flip through the book. After reading it once, Ling Han couldn't help but murmur, "Divine Reign Venerate? Are you that kind of person?" In this historical record, the origins of this mystery realm were recorded in detail. Many years ago, Divine Reign Venerate had fallen in love with a woman called Bai Nanjin, and began an intense courtship. However, Bai Nanjin already had a lover, so she chose to resolutely reject Divine Reign Venerate's courtship. Divine Reign Venerate flew into a rage out of humiliation, and split off the Bai clan along with a large area from the Great World, forming a small world independent of the heaven and earth. It was unknown whether he was deliberately toying with the members of the Bai clan, but Divine Reign Venerate had left behind a hatchet that could open the sky. Whoever could brandish this hatchet would be able to cut open the small world and return to the Great World. However, after so many years, there was no one that could hold up this axe that opened the sky. Naturally, they were unable to break through the barrier and have this mystery realm return to the Great World. Thus, it was extremely likely that Divine Reign Venerate was deliberately toying around with them, giving them false hope. Ling Han searched for several days in the imperial palace, but did not find the so-called sky-opening axe. He exited the imperial palace and walked among the crowds, as if he was immortal. He made some queries, and discovered that the common people had no doubts about the world they were in. They lived and died here, and their lives were ordinary and fulfilling. They had no intention of exploring the world outside the Galewind nation. In truth, since they were besieged by demonic beasts, they did not have that kind of ability even if they did. However, the common people haven't even heard about Divine Reign Venerate and the sky-opening axe. This made Ling Han feel very strange. If they wanted to escape, shouldn't they mobilize the entire population and stimulate more people to work hard? Who knows, a person that could wield the sky-opening axe might really emerge. After staying in the imperial capital for 9 days, Ling Han finally left to find the large black dog. He related the matter, and the large black dog was also slightly dazed. Had they been tricked into coming here? There was no way back now, so how were they supposed to leave this mystery realm? This Divine Reign Venerate is really too much. If he likes her, he could have just snatched her back directly, but he actually imprisoned her. What hardcore tastes? The large black dog mocked. "Little Han, we won't be trapped here, right?" Ling Han shook his head and said, "That's not the case. If we don't come out for a long time, the 9 Mountains Venerate will definitely act. Since this mystery realm was created by a Venerate tier, with the 9 Mountains Venerate's power, it shouldn't be a problem for him to bring us out of here." True. The large black dog breathed a sigh of relief. At least he didn't have to worry about being trapped here forever. "Since we're free anyway, Little Han, come and help Grandpa Dog with the fusion cauldron." The large black dog had already cultivated 9 cauldrons to its limit, and he had no hope of forming 10 cauldrons either. Thus, if he didn't fuse the 9 cauldrons now, there was no point in dragging things out either. Ling Han nodded. In any case, he didn't have any ideas for the moment. He couldn't find the way out, nor did he have any clues about divine rain venerates inheritance. Since he had nothing to do, he might as well help the large black dog complete the fusion cauldron first. The man and dog began to experiment. This was undoubtedly incredibly difficult. Even among the imperial clans, they would need to mobilize the imperial weapon to help shatter the celestial cauldrons with the imperial weapon, and there were very few who succeeded. It was not every imperial son and imperial daughter that could succeed. Ling Han had the large black dog prepare on his own first. When he reached a certain extent, he would make his move. Wang, the primal chaos extreme lightning tower appeared from his mind, enshrouding the large black dog's head. Why was it that while the imperial clan could help others join the fusion cauldron, the Holy Land couldn't? The difference lay in the imperial weapon. However, to say nothing of the Saint tool, even the precious tool of a venerate tier could easily shatter the celestial cauldrons. Even Tit was a primitive celestial cauldron. That was not enough in front of venerate tier level power. Then why was a verate tier level precious tool or Saint tool unable to help create the fusion cauldron and only the imperial weapon could? It could only mean one thing, and that was the extraordinary nature of the imperial weapon itself. In terms of might, the primal chaos extreme lightning tower in Ling Han's hands was only on the level of the core formation tier and only a 3-star celestial tool. At most, it was only on the level of kings and overlords among 3-star spirit tools. There was definitely still a gap between it and the level of a 4-star celestial tool. However, what was the primal chaos extreme lightning tower made of? Origin gold. Not only was it number 1 in the world, but it was also one of the strongest in the highest grade. Thus, Ling Han believed that using the unique trait of the origin gold, it may be possible to help the large black dog create his fusion cauldron. If he succeeded, he would be able to help the Empress, Hunyo, Lin Luo, and the others combine the fusion cauldron, and he alone would be equivalent to an imperial clan. Thus, this attempt was extremely important. Wang, the primal chaos extreme lightning tower poured down primal chaos chi, and a supreme pressure enshrouded. That was the might of the origin gold itself. Old Black, let's begin, Ling Han shouted through divine sense. Come at me! The large black dog roared. Boom! The large black dog took the initiative to stimulate the 9 celestial cauldrons in his body to collide with each other. Because it was an odd number, they could not correspond to each other. They could only engage in a chaotic battle. Pung, pung, pung. The primal chaos chi entered into the large black dog's mind, forming a layer of protection, preventing the ripples caused by the celestial cauldron's collision from destroying the mind. Otherwise, it would not be a fusion cauldron but rather death. It was not enough. Though the primal chaos chi was awesome, he kept feeling like there was something missing and could not stop all the shockwaves. One after another, shockwaves surged out, causing the large black dog to grunt repeatedly and bleed from all his apertures. After Ling Han frowned, he immediately stimulated the life force in the dimensions in his body to help the large black dog. In the past, he had used this move himself, but this was the first time he had used it to help others. It was effective. A smile appeared on Ling Han's face. When the power of living beings surged into the large black dog's mind, a wall of life was immediately built, blocking all the shockwaves. However, this was also extremely taxing on the power of living beings. Hurry! 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 The large black dog clearly knew this as well, and continued to shatter the celestial cauldrons. Quang! 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 One after another, cracks appeared on the celestial cauldrons, and then they began to shatter. Finally, the 9 celestial cauldrons all shattered, but they varied in size. Some shards were as big as 1/5 of the original celestial cauldron, while some were only 10,000th. At this time, the large black dog was already unable to continue, and Ling Han's life force was also close to exhaustion. Fusion cauldron. The large black dog ignored everything and used a larger fragment as the core. Then he drew all the shards over and combined them to forge a celestial cauldron. Because the celestial cauldron had not been completely shattered, reconstructing it was also filled with great difficulty. The large black dog had to work a little bit harder to fuse the only celestial cauldron. However, when the 9 cauldrons became one, they would not be able to cultivate a mystical power like Ling Han's mystical power, which could absorb attacks. The celestial cauldron did not have the mark of the divine beasts. This was merely a step forward, and increased in power. Of course, this step was large enough to allow the large black dog to possess the battle prowess of a 1 or even 2 heavens. Meanwhile, Ling Han breathed a sigh of relief. Next, it could only depend on the large black dog. He felt like his whole person was about to collapse, and the Primal Chaos Extreme Lightning Tower also seemed to have something taken away from it, needing a considerable amount of time to recover. After all, this was helping another create a fusion cauldron. Even the Imperial clan would only be able to nurture 1 or 2 such prodigies in each generation. Thus, it was not surprising that this would expend a lot of energy. Ling Han rested for 2 days, recovering to his prime condition. The large black dog was still in deep seclusion. By the looks of it, he still needed some time before he could successfully create the celestial cauldron. Ling Han pondered for a moment, but still didn't act on his own volition. Instead, he remained by the large black dog's side as a protector. He wasn't idle either. He had been cultivating all this while. He had already cultivated to the end of the early stage of the core formation tier, and was just a little bit away from advancing into the middle stage of the core formation tier. However, he was just that little bit away. Ling Han knew that this was because his cultivation level had increased too quickly, and required a certain amount of time to accumulate. Thus, he was not in a rush, and merely stabilized his foundations. The more solid his foundations were, the higher he would reach when he definitely broke through. At present, merely in terms of raw power, I have reached 10th heaven. The majority of core formation tier elites would not be able to withstand a single punch from me. However, if I encounter those guys ranked in the top 10, merely the suppression of the Primal Chaos Celestial Core would not be enough for me to win. I would have to use the murderous aura to barrage them. The barrage of murderous aura now was too terrifying. Couldn't be helped. Who asked Ling Han's soul strength to advance into the spiritual transformation tier? If it weren't for the fact that the core formation tier was still unqualified to come into contact with the regulations of heaven and earth, with the strength of his soul, it was possible that he could even kill the true self tier. After dragging on for half a month, the large black dog finally succeeded. It severed the internal demon in its heart, and successfully cultivated the only celestial cauldron. Little Han, Grandpa Dog has succeeded, the large black dog shouted in excitement. With its current accomplishments, it was not the slightest bit inferior to an imperial son or imperial daughter. Ling Han was also very happy. The large black dog had succeeded, which meant that this path could be taken. The Empress, Hunyo, and the others could all create the fusion cauldron. This was too awesome. Let's go and investigate the situation. Ling Han set off again, entering into the imperial capital. This time, it was bustling with noise and excitement. Close to 20 days had passed, and the great formation of Zimming Mountain had further weakened. Not only could the cauldron forging tier cultivators enter, even the core formation tier cultivators were no longer restricted. Thus, large amounts of core formation tier cultivators and cauldron forging tier cultivators surged in. Because the humans and demon race cultivators here were absolutely hostile toward each other, the humans and demon race cultivators that entered each went their own way. And it was precisely at this moment that Bai Xiangming, the nation leader of the Galewind Nation, threw out the legend of opening the sky, and guaranteed that as long as the demon race was eliminated, every subject that had performed meritorious service could try and see if they could pick up the sky opening axe. He also said that there was a secret hidden in the sky opening axe, regarding the inheritance of a supreme elite, but only those who could hold the axe would be able to see clearly. Because of this guarantee, everyone was eager to give it a try, wanting to cooperate with the Galewind Nation to eliminate all the demon race elites. Ling Han returned, and told the large black dog what he had found out. "What are we going to do?" the large black dog asked. "Could it be that we sneak our ways into the army that's going to battle?" Ling Han shook his head, and said, I keep feeling that Divine Reign Venerate wouldn't do such a thing out of boredom. That's right. He can snatch whatever girl he likes. The large black dog expressed his full agreement. Even if he can't snatch her, he can still steal some underpants. Ling Han shot out a kick. Only a despicable dog like you would do that. He retracted his foot and said, firstly, to reject an elite like Divine Reign Venerate would require extraordinary courage. Even if that Miss Bai is extremely loyal to her beloved, how could her lover be like this as well? Would her clan be so stubborn? That's right. The large black dog clapped his paws. That is a Venerate tier elite, and in fact, he even has the secret of the Emperor's inheritance. This kind of temptation was something that even a holy land would not be able to resist. They would be willing to gift a holy daughter in exchange, right? So, there's a problem with the Bai clan's resolute refusal. Ling Han pondered for a moment, then said, don't forget, all of this originates from the Bai clan's records. And if you were asked to write your own biography, would you beautify yourself? That's for sure. Who doesn't want to be worshipped for all eternity, but rather be notorious for all eternity? The large black dog nodded. Hey, as for you? Whether you beautify it or not has only one result. You're destined to be infamous for 10,000 years. Ling Han struck a blow at the large black dog, then continued. So, what we're seeing now is only one side of the story from the Bai clan. As for the truth, that may not be the case. Then what do you mean? The large black dog asked. Ling Han smiled. Let's go and take a look at the demon race. Great. Now Grandpa Dog doesn't need to hide anymore. Instead, you're going to become Grandpa Dog's human pet. The large black dog was instantly amused. Come, call me Master Dog. Get lost. Ling Han and the large black dog set off. The large black dog was naturally his original form, and Ling Han was also his original form. He only had to say that he had taken human form. The imperial family had a demonic mirror, and the demon race also had a human mirror. They had not walked for too long when they saw a majestic group of people, all of them human. They're moving so fast, they're already mobilized? Ling Han activated his eye technique. With a glance, he discovered a great many elites, mainly those in the Cauldron Forging tier and the Core Formation tier. There were also a considerable number of Foundation Building tiers, but there were not many True Self tier elites, only 2. A killing intent suddenly appeared in his eyes. Fu Huiyang. He actually saw that heir of the Imperial clan, Fu Huiyang. Even if there were True Self tier elites standing guard here, Fu Huiyang was still extremely arrogant, putting on airs. He was merely a member of a side branch of the Imperial clan. What was so impressive about that? It was not just Fu Huiyang. There was also Lu Qi, Feng Jixing, and so on. There was really quite a number of top-notch prodigies. Ling Han felt an urge to charge over and kill Fu Huiyang and the others, but when he thought about how there were 2 True Self tier elites here, it would be too difficult to kill someone right in front of their eyes. Thus, Ling Han forcefully suppressed this urge. Little Han, what do you plan to do? The large black dog approached and asked. Ling Han smiled and said, let's follow them. Aren't they going to start a war with the demon race? At that time, we can just kill those guys and treat it as a greeting gift to the demon race. All right. The large black dog was in high spirits. He loved screwing others over. The man and dog followed this group, advancing very quickly. Thus, in just half a day's time, they had arrived in front of a great mountain. This is the territory of the Blue Demon Tiger King, someone introduced. The Blue Demon Tiger King is a demonic king of the True Self tier. Though there is only one True Self tier elite here, the battle prowess of the Blue Demon Tiger King is extremely terrifying. It has the ability to fight 1 against 2, or even in fact against 3. Of course, the Commander-in-Chief, the Sea City King and the Solemn Heavenly King are also well-known figures among True Self tier elites. If the 2 lords join forces, it would be enough to match the Blue Demon Tiger King. Our purpose this time is to destroy all the demon race elites under the True Self tier. Merely the Blue Demon Tiger King alone would not be able to cause much damage, and there would eventually come a day when it would die of old age. This strategy was very good. With a large population, only would it be able to ensure that a race's prosperity would not decline. Otherwise, so what if it was the descendant of someone as strong as a great emperor? Even Brother Monkey had been suppressed by a venerate tier force. All right, we will begin our attacks. If we encounter enemies, there is no need to show mercy, and not a single one will be spared. After a round of pre-battle mobilization, this army began to charge. On the other side, the Blue Demon Tiger King was already prepared. When the expedition army rushed out for more than 10 miles, a large number of demonic beasts suddenly appeared on the mountain, greeting the army below them, and birds appeared in the skies, launching a surprise attack. Aerial team, move out! Chen Lang was one of the commanders-in-chief. His expression was calm, and with a wave of his hand, multiple cultivators flew on their respective weapons, launching an offensive against those birds in the skies. Little Han, should we make a move now? The large black dog rubbed his paws together, eager to give it a try. It had just successfully created the fusion cauldron, and its battle prowess had soared into the core formation tier. It was presently impatient to test out its own strength. Wait, Ling Han said with a shake of his head. We'll act after the commander-in-chief arrives and makes his move. Ling Han didn't want to be targeted by those two true self-tier cultivators. All right, the large black dog nodded. In this kind of situation, he naturally could not allow his temper free rein. Insolent human, you actually dare to violate my authority. With a loud roar, an incredibly burly man leaped into the air. However, though he had a human body, he retained a thick and long tail, which was waving back and forth. The Blue Demon Tiger King. Charge! The Sea City King, the solemn heavenly king, leaped into the air at the same time and charged towards the Blue Demon Tiger King. Hong! 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 The three elites exchanged blows, battling fiercely in the skies. One after another, shockwaves rippled out, and shards of regulations surged out. This was too terrifying. No one dared to approach, and even those in the core formation tier would have to keep their distance. This Blue Demon Tiger King's force naturally had outsiders from the demon race as well. They deliberately avoided the humans that had entered here, and instead made a move on the people of the Galewind Nation. On the other side, it was the same for the humans that had come from outside. They only made a move on the native demonic beasts, each killing their own. The chance is here, Ling Han said. The large black dog's expression was also filled with excitement. He could finally show his strength. Charge! The man and dog also charged out, and quickly separated, each finding their own opponent. Ling Han changed his appearance and soul fluctuations. Killing a member of the imperial clan in public, killing fellow disciples, the implications were too great and too terrible. Thus, it was better to let someone who did not exist bear the blame. He quickly cut in, and was already very close to Fu Huiyang. At this moment, Fu Huiyang was unleashing a massacre on the demonic beasts. Although he couldn't combust his imperial bloodline anymore, his battle prowess at the 15th heaven surged. If it wasn't a supreme prodigy, how could anyone rival him? Thus, killing demonic beasts was as easy as cutting weeds for him. He was completely unmatched. How dare you, human? You actually dared to kill a member of our demon race. I'll kill you, Ling Han roared as he charged over. Not only had Ling Han's appearance changed, but he even had a tail behind him. This naturally was imitating the Blue Demon Tiger King, which was equivalent to announcing that he was a member of the demon race. The demon race cultivators here had been massacred by Fu Huiyang, and they were already on the verge of collapse. When they saw Ling Han step forward, it was as if they had seen their savior. They all roared loudly, cheering Ling Han on. Fu Huiyang was slightly surprised. This demon race cultivator was clearly not a native of this place, so why had he taken the initiative to provoke him? They had long since formed a tacit understanding, and that was to kill their own targets, and not interfere with each other. This was very normal. A great many people had powerful backgrounds. Could it be that they would have to fight to the death for the sake of the natives of this small mystery realm? If it weren't for the sake of obtaining the sky-opening axe as soon as possible, they wouldn't have needed to make a move at all. As long as they waited until the true self-tier elite or even the spirit transformation tier elite entered this space, would the natives still have the right to speak? But this member of the demon race actually dared to trifle with him. Are you blind? Don't you know that I am Fu Huiyang from the Imperial clan? You're seeking death. Fu Huiyang was a member of the Imperial clan, so how arrogant and domineering was he? It had always been him who trifled with others, so how could he allow others to bully him? It doesn't matter whether you're truly stupid or just pretending to be stupid. Just die. Boom, his palm struck out, its might soaring to the heavens. Ling Han smiled slightly and casually used a venerate tier-level technique, clashing with Fu Huiyang. Pong! 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 The two of them exchanged blows, but the gap in battle prowess was too wide. Naturally, it was Ling Han who was forced into continuous retreat, but the primal chaos celestial core showed its might, easily dispersing the power that was assailing him, so it naturally could not wound him in the slightest. Fu Huiyang wasn't stupid, and he immediately came to a realization. The other's abilities were clearly far inferior to his, but the force of his attack did not cause any damage at all. What did this mean? This guy could absorb power attacks. He had only seen this kind of mystical power on one person, and this kind of mystical power was too unique. He did not believe that he would be able to encounter any random person that also had this power. Thus, there was only one truth. This member of the demon race was that person, the guy who had caused him great humiliation. Ding-e! Fu Huiyang roared through gritted teeth. So it's you. Ha-ha! It's your grandpa Ding. Ling Han laughed loudly. Since he had been recognized, there was nothing for him to hide. Shua! A murderous aura burst out, and Fu Huiyang instantly grabbed his head and screamed. The barrage of this murderous aura was too terrifying. Could be considered Ling Han's strongest killing move. He took advantage of the opening to charge over and shot out a punch. However, Fu Huiyang was a prodigy of the Imperial clan after all. Moreover, he had also entered into the netherworld and obtained many benefits. The strength of his soul had advanced into the true self tier, and his willpower was also extremely tenacious. In the end, he still managed to catch his breath. Damn it! He shot out a punch, greeting Ling Han's attack. Pong! However, the result of this punch was that he was sent flying. He was completely no match for Ling Han. Under the barrage of murderous aura, it was already good enough that he could fight back. How much battle prowess did he want to keep? Impressive. Formidable. Brave warrior. When the demon race saw this, they immediately cheered Ling Han on. Fu Huiyang was beside himself with rage, and he wanted nothing more than to tear Ling Han into pieces. However, during the spar at the Donglin Imperial clan, he had been inferior to Ling Han. Even after combusting his imperial bloodline to raise his battle prowess by 10 heavens, he had still been brutally pummeled by Ling Han. Now, how could he possibly be a match for Ling Han? Let's go. He made a prompt decision and immediately turned to flee. There was no need for him to fight head-on with Ling Han now. When he advanced into the true self tier, he would use the advantage of a major tier to kill Ling Han. Ling Han smirked coldly. Since he had already made his move, how could he allow you to escape? Primal Chaos Divine Lightning. A bolt of lightning shot out. It had not even reached him, when Fu Huiyang's figure suddenly paused, as if he had become stupid. He had fallen into an illusion. Though the black light of illusion was intertwined with the Primal Chaos Divine Lightning, it itself was effective on divine sense. It could reach its target as long as it was within the rangen of attack. Thus, before the Primal Chaos Divine Lightning had even struck him, the black light of illusion Ha-I already affected Fu Huiyang's mind. However, the speed at which the Primal Chaos Divine Lightning was sent flying was also extraordinarily fast. Just as Fu Huiyang was startled, the Divine Lightning had already struck him. Lightning flashed, and a charred hole had already appeared in Fu Huiyang's chest. However, after sustaining such a heavy blow, Fu Huiyang finally came back to his senses from the illusion. At this moment, Ling Han also charged over with a punch, his killing intent blazing. Fu Huiyang was astonished. He had never seen Ling Han use this move before. Was this a new ultimate technique that this person had obtained, or was this person hiding his strength, and had not used it all this while? However, How could he have the time to mull over this at this moment? He hurriedly launched an attack, greeting Ling Han's attack. Otherwise, his only fate would be death. Pang! In this exchange of blows, Fu Huiyang was once again sent flying. He was completely outmatched by Ling Han. This was natural. He had been suppressed in battle prowess by 3 heavens, and his chest had also been severely wounded. At most, he could only unleash battle prowess on par with 11 heavens. And what about Ling Han? His base power was as high as 10th heaven. If he used any saint technique, he would be able to overwhelm him in terms of battle prowess. Ling Han caught up to him, unleashing a barrage of deadly attacks. Fu Huiyang was both furious and shocked, yet he could only take the beating passively. Previously, in that spar, though he had not ignited all his imperial blood, there was not much left. It was far from enough to allow him to reignite it. Thus, he was really at his wit's end now. He did not have any trump card that he could use at all. He could only suffer a beating. Under a series of attacks, he screamed repeatedly. What made him even more depressed was the fact that though every strike from Ling Han was heavy, it was not fatal. If it was a little heavier and threatened his life, the treasure in his possession would show its might and teleport him away. This guy must have done it on purpose. Fu Huiyang shouted in fury. As a member of the imperial clan, he was actually being toyed with like this. What justice was there left in this world? Pang! Finally, Ling Han's punch landed. This power was a little heavy, and directly threatened Fu Huiyang's life. Instantly, a ray of light wrapped around him. Show! Then he disappeared. The treasure unleashed its might, saving him from death. It even allowed him to travel millions and millions of kilometers to ensure that he was safe enough. However, could he really succeed? Ling Han was now a formations grandmaster, and keenly discovered that in truth, as that light surged, it had also extracted chi from the ley lines, borrowing the power to send Fu Huiyang away. So this was the principle of the 10,000 escape talisman. Ling Han stood quietly and spread out his divine sense, entering into the ley lines. There were pitifully few ley lines in this mystery realm, and there were only a dozen over. Thus, it was a very simple matter to investigate. Found it. A smile spread across Ling Han's face. Show! He instantly disappeared as well. It was unknown whether it was his luck or Fu Huiyang's misfortune, but there just happened to be a ley line here, so he didn't need to move to another place. On the other side, with a flash, Fu Huiyang was teleported out through the ley lines. At this moment, he was at least tens of thousands of miles away from the battlefield, so it was naturally impossible for Ling Han to find him. He touched the necklace around his neck. It was this thing that had saved his life, and he could activate it a total of 7 more times. The background of the Imperial clan was indeed astonishing. Their life-saving trump card could actually be used so many times. He would heal his injuries first and then make plans. However, before he could even take out his medicine, a figure flashed before him and a person appeared. Ling Han. At this moment, Fu Huiyang was completely stupefied. What was going on? I was teleported here, so how did you follow me out as well? Even if you have the means to travel 10,000 miles with such a large area, how did you know that I was here? How could it possibly be you? Fu Huiyang exclaimed in shock. He had really gotten a scare. Ling Han cracked a smile. Why can't it be me? You can run, but I am not allowed to chase. This isn't a question of running or chasing. Rather, it's a question of how you can possibly catch up to me. Fu Huiyang naturally didn't believe that Ling Han would be so lucky and just happened to catch him in the path of escape. Without another word, he broke into a run and fled. Ling Han caught up to him, unleashing his full battle prowess as he launched an attack at Fu Huiyang. Fu Huiyang parried, but his injuries had not been treated. As time passed, they were still worsening. This caused his battle prowess to fall further, so how could he possibly be a match for Ling Han? In just a few moves, he was killed again. A ray of light swept past, sending him away again. Where did you go this time? Ling Han murmured. His divine sense spread out, and he followed the ley lines to search for Fu Huiyang. Found it. He also followed the ley lines. With a flash, he too quickly disappeared. On the other side, Fu Huiyang immediately broke into a run as soon as the teleportation ended. He didn't know if Ling Han would chase after him, but he didn't dare to take the risk. However, he had only run a short distance when he saw a figure appear out of thin air behind him. Ling Han. As expected, this guy had come again. Fu Huiyang, why are you running? Ling Han asked as he pursued Fu Huiyang. With Fu Huiyang's current state, how much of his speed could he unleash? Ling Han caught up to him in just 2 or 3 steps. Subsequently, it was naturally another violent beating. Needless to say, Fu Huiyang was killed, again in just a few moments. With a flash of white light, he once again disappeared without a trace. Even if you have 100 chances to escape, I will still continue to pursue you, right until I send you on your way to the afterlife, Ling Han murmured. This time, there was absolutely no way he would let the other go. Fu Huiyang finished the teleportation, and this time he didn't run again. A prodigy like him naturally had no lack of decisiveness. He knew that there was no way he could escape. Thus, the most effective method was not to flee, but to counterattack with all his might. He waited for Ling Han to appear. Once Ling Han appeared, he would launch a powerful attack. Having just come out of the teleportation, Ling Han would definitely be careless, and this was the best chance for him to attack. If he could kill Ling Han, then not only would he be able to solve the problem of being hunted down, he would also be able to get his revenge completely. After a while, Ling Han appeared as expected. Die! Fu Huiyang roared. He unleashed his full power as he launched an attack at Ling Han. In this strike, he had really gone all out. With what little power he had left, he shot out the Imperial technique, swearing that he would kill Ling Han with a single strike. However, how could Ling Han not be on guard? Pong! When this attack arrived, it did not even manage to penetrate the defenses of the Primal Chaos Extreme Lightning Tower. It was blocked by the air of Primal Chaos. What? Fu Huiyang's expression was filled with disbelief. He had used the Imperial technique to attack Ling Han, catching him completely off guard. Yet, he hadn't even managed to penetrate Ling Han's defenses? Fu Huiyang. No matter how many times you flee, you'll still die, Ling Han said calmly. He was already determined to kill Fu Huiyang. Fu Huiyang gritted his teeth and said, "Who are you? Who exactly are you?" "I'm your uncle," Ling Han said with a smile, completely having no intention of revealing his identity. Fu Huiyang fought as he retreated. "I know that Ding Yi is definitely not your true identity. What is it? Are you afraid to show yourself? Your true identity is very lowly, and you are the son of a prostitute." He was naturally trying to deliberately enrage Ling Han, wanting to worm out Ling Han's true identity. However, how could Ling Han fall for it? He simply increased the speed of his punches. After a few punches, Fu Huiyang was killed again. Again and again. Fu Huiyang's expression became uglier and uglier. He was only left with one last chance to teleport. If he was killed by Ling Han again, he couldn't die again. Otherwise, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. Ding Yi, there's actually no great enmity between us. He switched to a gentle strategy and played the sympathy card. Why don't we turn from enemies into friends? I am the prodigy of the Imperial clan. If you have a friend like me, it would be greatly beneficial for you. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh in spite of himself, saying, "Fu Huiyang, is this your first day out? You're actually saying such childish things? Since you've planted your own cause, even if you die, you have to straighten your back and endure the consequences." No kidding, he didn't want to die. Fu Huiyang roared in fury. "No, I am the prodigy of the Imperial clan. I will definitely become a saint in future, and cannot die. No one can't die, what more trash like you?" Ling Han said calmly. "If you become a saint, wouldn't that be the misfortune of heaven and earth?" Pong! He threw another punch and Fu Huiyang was sent on his way again. This was another teleportation. How many more times can you teleport? Ling Han searched the ley lines and soon located Fu Huiyang. With a flash, he immediately set off in pursuit. This time, Fu Huiyang was completely flustered. He no longer had a trump card and could no longer save his life. Ling Han knew what he was doing with a single glance, and said, "Looks like your life-saving technique has been used up." Fu Huiyang clenched his fists. He would never have dreamed that he would be forced to this extent by Ling Han. He had a total of 7 life-saving chances, and Ling Han had actually caught up to him every time. Not a single time had he managed to successfully escape. What could he do? What could he do? Thoughts flashed through his mind like lightning, yet he couldn't think of any strategy. At this moment, Fu Huiyang felt extreme despair and regret. He naturally didn't regret refining the 10,000 spirit blood pill, nor did he regret being so overbearing toward Ling Han. Rather, he regretted not killing Ling Han while he was still weak. Couldn't be helped. He knew that he was the heir of the imperial clan, and his cultivation level far surpassed Ling Han. Even in his dreams, he would never have imagined that there would come a day when he would actually be forced into desperate straits by Ling Han. Your uncle will always be your uncle. Ling Han had already charged over, and once again used the primal chaos divine lightning. As the attack landed, another hole appeared in Fu Huiyang's chest. This time it was in his heart. Fu Huiyang roared loudly and began to combust his celestial core. He was going to take the final gamble. Die! Ling Han launched another attack, and amidst the barrage of murderous aura, Fu Huiyang's action of burning the celestial core suddenly came to an abrupt stop. Then he collapsed onto the ground, his vitality rapidly dissipating. Ling Han didn't feel a shred of sympathy. Fu Huiyang had sought death on his own. He actually wanted to use the blood of millions of living beings to concoct the 10,000 spirit blood pill. Just for this guy deserved to die. He grabbed Fu Huiyang's corpse, and with a flash, he had already returned to the battlefield. However, the battle had already ended. Little Han, the large black dog, ran over. "How is it?" "I killed one." Ling Han nodded. "The one surnamed Fu?" All right." The large black dog appeared very excited. "Grandpa Dog has already formed relations with that great tiger. Let's go." Ling Han and the large black dog walked into the mountains, while the large black dog talked about the battle situation after Ling Han left. It was very tragic, with many people and demonic beasts dying. However, most of them were natives of this place, and not many outsiders had died. Precisely because both sides had suffered heavy losses, the generals on both sides called for a retreat. "Grandpa Dog! Grandpa Dog!" When they entered into the camp of the Tiger King, they saw that there were minor demons calling out to the large black dog along the way, looking like they were trying to curry his favor. You seem to be doing quite well?" Ling Han found this a little strange. "Of course," the large black dog said proudly. Grandpa Dog almost became sworn brothers with that tiger. How can these lackeys not flatter Grandpa Dog? Ling Han clicked his tongue. He hadn't spent much time hunting down Fu Huiyang, yet the large black dog had already developed such a strong friendship with the Tiger King. This was truly impressive. "How did you, lie to the tiger?" he asked, smiling. "What lie?" The large black dog's expression was filled with righteousness. Grandpa Dog only shared his views on underpants with him. Ling Han was instantly speechless. This damn dog was really too indecent. This was the territory of the demonic beasts, and the demonic beasts' aesthetic tastes were naturally completely different from humans. The buildings here were all built of stone, and there was no beauty to be seen at all, but it was really rugged. Brother Black. They had not even walked to the largest stone house. When they saw the blue demon Tiger King come out to receive them, his face all smiles. Come, come, come. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Brother Tiger." The large black dog nodded, his face full of smiles, looking extremely despicable. Ling Han couldn't bear to watch and turned his head away. They entered into this stone house. Actually, this should be considered a great hall. It was very wide and tall inside, and there were multiple stones placed there. They could be considered stools, and most of them were occupied. Ling Han swept an eye over them, and already knew what was going on. These were basically the members of the demon race from the outsiders. Ling Han. Seeing Ling Han enter, a considerable number of demon race elites immediately stood up, revealing covetous expressions. Even the Imperial Sun had been defeated, which caused Ling Han to become completely popular. As long as they were prodigy level, most of them had seen Ling Han's appearance before. This was an opponent that they had to be extremely wary of. Now, everyone was clearly separated. The human race was on the side of the Galewind nation, while the demon race was on the other side. Yet you, a mere human, had come here. What was the meaning of this? You are a human? The Blue Demon Tiger King asked, his voice booming, bringing with it endless might. The large black dog hurriedly said, Brother Tiger, don't be anxious. My brother is a human with a beast in his heart. Otherwise, I wouldn't have become his best friend. Humph. Those who are not of our race must have ulterior motives. A demon race member declared coldly. He had a pair of goat horns on his head. This was obviously a deliberate manifestation, showing that he was a member of the demon race. The large black dog immediately retorted and said, Speaking of non-humans, it seems like you're not a member of the tiger race either, right? Grandpa Dog doesn't think that you look to have a very righteous heart either. Moreover, you should be a member of the goat race, and your race have been devoured quite a bit by the tiger race. You must be displeased with Brother Tiger. That demon race cultivator was so infuriated that the corners of his mouth twitched. He was a member of the Iron Goat race. This race was born powerful, so how could they be eaten by a tiger? Bullshit. Our Iron Goat tribe has produced a demonic saint before. What elite of the tiger race have we not killed before? He couldn't help but retort. However, as soon as the words left his mouth, he knew that he was done for. Humph. You've even killed a tiger before? The Blue Demon Tiger King glared over, its eyes filled with might, exuding a powerful killing intent. No, that member of the Iron Goat race said. That is a matter of my ancestors, and has nothing to do with me. Little lamb, don't you know what a father's debt is repaid by his son? The large black dog said calmly. Brother Tiger, I think this guy doesn't look like a good person at first glance. With such a protruding back of his head, he must be rebellious. That Iron Goat race member really wanted to come up and fight the large black dog to the death. Do I have any enmity with you? Is there any need to smear my name so harshly? The Blue Demon Tiger King did not respond at the first instant, but rather looked coldly at the Iron Goat race member. Everyone calm down. A tall, slender man stood up and waved his hand at the Blue Demon Tiger King and Iron Goat race member. In the end, we are all members of the demon race and are all descendants of the primitive divine beasts, so we can be considered a family. However, this human is a different story. He pointed at Ling Han and changed the topic. The Iron Goat race member thought that this was right. His original intention for stepping out was to reveal Ling Han's identity as a human. At the very least, he wanted to chase Ling Han away. Why had the large black dog changed the topic, dragging himself into the matter? Meanwhile, Ling Han said to the Blue Demon Tiger King, Lord Tiger King, may I speak with you in private? The Blue Demon Tiger King glanced at him and nodded slowly. All right. He was at the true self tier, and his strength was also formidable. If he exchanged blows with a cultivator of the same cultivation level, one of him could match two of them. Thus, he was completely unafraid that Ling Han would play any tricks. The two of them arrived at a secluded place. Ling Han took out Fu Huayang's corpse, tossed it onto the ground, and said, My lord, can this prove my sincerity? The eyes of the Blue Demon Tiger King immediately lit up. Though he had not taken Fu Huayang seriously, he had seen how Fu Huayang had gone on a killing spree and slaughtered a considerable number of his subordinates. His abilities were definitely extraordinary. I trust you, he nodded, a smile appearing on his face. However, this person's identity is extraordinary. Please keep it a secret for me, Lord, Ling Han said. All right. The Blue Demon Tiger King nodded. They returned to the stone house, and the Blue Demon Tiger King immediately announced, From this moment onwards, no one is allowed to speak of Ling Han's human identity again. If you speak of this again, don't blame me for taking actions. This caused all the demon race elites to feel surprised. Just what had Ling Han said to the Blue Demon Tiger King that he had managed to convince him so quickly. Tiger King, when are we going to attack the imperial capital of the human race? Someone asked. The Blue Demon Tiger King pondered for a moment. This is extremely difficult. If we join forces with the other demonic beasts, how could it be that we won't be able to conquer the human race? Another person asked. The Blue Demon Tiger King shook his head slowly. The human race has deep roots and is not as weak as we think. Us great demon kings, as well as our ancestors, have tried to conquer the imperial capital of the human race, generation after generation, and all ended in failure. Everyone exchanged looks. According to their understanding, there were at most 10 true self-tier elites in the human race, and in the case of the demon race, not only were there even more true self-tier elites, but their battle prowess was also terrifying. One of them was equivalent to 2 of them, so how could they not be able to break through the defenses of the human race? Humans have a powerful weapon that will unleash its might at the most critical moment. The Azure Demon Tiger King shook its head. My father was severely wounded by that powerful weapon and died when he was only 2,000 years old. What kind of deadly weapon was so awesome? Was this a treasure that had been left behind by Divine Rain Venerate? Everyone's eyes lit up. They had finally found out a sliver of the secret of Divine Rain Venerate's inheritance. However, the Blue Demon Tiger King stopped here and did not continue this topic. He even told everyone to go and rest. With this shooing order, everyone naturally could only leave. Ling Han communicated with the large black dog through divine sense, telling it to probe again. With how despicable the large black dog was, it should be able to discover a lot of secrets that others didn't know. The large black dog nodded and left, calling out, "Brother Tiger, wait for me." Ling Han crossed his arms behind his back, planning to walk around. Was there any celestial medicine in this mountain? Now that he had grasped the ley lines, it was equivalent to having eyes and ears all over this world. The chances of finding celestial medicine was very high. Ling Han, a voice rang out from behind him. Ling Han suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned around to look. This was a young man. He was tall and sturdy, and there was actually a circle of golden fur around his neck. It was thick and long, making him appear furry. "I am sure Yuan," the man declared proudly. "None of my business," Ling Han retorted. If the other had spoken politely, he naturally would not mind speaking calmly, but this guy looked like he had come to cause trouble, so what was the point of being polite? Sure, Yuan faltered upon hearing this. He hadn't expected Ling Han to speak so vulgarly. He humphed and said, "I'll only say one thing. I'm from the Western Heavenly Realm. Are you retarded?" Ling Han shrugged. "What business is it of mine where you come from?" Teetweiss. Sure, Yuan bared his teeth, a cold glint in his eyes. "Ha ha ha. This brat is going to be in big trouble." Sure, Yuan is one of the few prodigies of the West Heavenly Realm and is ranked 27th on the Galaxy Network. This brat suppressed the Western Heavenly Realm to the point of having lost so much face. He'll definitely be targeted. The North Heavenly Realm wants to step out? The so-called prodigy can only be short-lived. There were also some people around, and they all shook their heads. Naturally, they were not the slightest bit optimistic about Ling Han. Sure, Yuan had already calmed down. "Ling Han, you're far too arrogant. You've only defeated a few weaklings, yet you still dare to treat everyone else with such disdain. Today, I'll let you know that the prodigies of the West Heavenly Realm are people that you can only look up to." Ling Han scoffed and said, "You're at the consummate level of the core formation tier, and I'm only at the early stage of the core formation tier. Are you using your advantage in cultivation level to suppress me? I'm the same age as you, so how could it be unfair?" Sure, Yuan said. He lashed out with his right hand. Boom! Power condensed, transforming into a gigantic golden claw that slammed down at Ling Han. Ling Han activated the imminent skyline and casually dodged, saying, No, no, no. You're at least over 50. I'm still young." When Sure Yuan heard this, he instantly exploded in fury. He was indeed in his 50s, but no matter where he was, a 50-year-old core formation tier consummate level martial artist would be incredibly young, a top-grade prodigy. Now, he was actually being looked down on by Ling Han, so how could he not be furious? Even though Ling Han was only in his 20s, the three barriers of the early stage of core formation tier, the middle stage of core formation tier, and the late stage of core formation tier were like a block. When Ling Han reached the consummate level of the core formation tier, he would at least be in his 40s or 50s. Damn it! He roared in fury. He pounced over, swinging his claws one after another. Innumerable golden threads streaked past, interweaving into a net. He was indeed strong, with battle prowess as high as 23 heavens. He was practically comparable to Fu Huiyang, who was burning imperial blood, which made Ling Han completely unqualified to match him. He could only use imminent skyline to dodge. However, Shi Yuan had also mastered a high-level movement technique. The moment he channeled it, he instantly followed closely behind Ling Han like a shadow. In this way, Ling Han only had to make the slightest mistake, and he would be hit by Shi Yuan. Everyone shook their heads. There was no one who would not make a mistake. Then, with the strength of Shi Yuan's battle prowess, he would be able to kill Ling Han or severely injure him with a single strike. However, they didn't care. Firstly, because Ling Han was a human, and secondly, he was from the North Heavenly Realm, so who cares? You really have no end, Ling Han said coldly. The other party didn't know what was good for him, which angered him as well. Haha. You can only talk tough for a while. Shi Yuan's confidence had completely returned. It was fine even if he couldn't win in a verbal battle with Ling Han. In martial arts, strength was what mattered, and not the ability to speak glibly. Die! He roared loudly. Wang, his voice actually took form, turning into the head of a lion, which opened its mouth to bite at Ling Han. Lion roar! Ling Han immediately felt a tremor in his mind, causing boundless waves to rise up, as if his mind was about to be shattered. Realization dawned on him. Even though Shi Yuan had unleashed this attack with a roar, the lion's head that he had taken form in was merely a pretense. The true killing move was the divine sense attack. With a roar, it had reached him, and was already wreaking havoc in his mind. If anyone believed that the lion's head was the main force of attack, they would have already been hit. Ling Han smiled faintly. Launch a divine sense attack on him? Hee. Didn't he know that the strength of his divine sense had already advanced into the spirit transformation tier? He focused slightly, and his mind instantly calmed down. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Take a strike from me as well, Ling Han said. He then roared, unleashing a murderous aura attack. Wang! Shi Yuan's body instantly faltered, and then his expression became twisted. He suddenly grabbed his head and screamed in agony. Everyone was stunned, and even felt that this was unreal. When it came to divine sense attacks, the lion roar of the lion race was definitely top-notch. It was said that the Buddhist race's lion roar technique had been inspired by the lion race. Now, Shi Yuan clearly had the advantage in cultivation level, and was also skilled in divine sense attacks, but not only had he not been able to defeat Ling Han, he had instead been wounded by the latter's divine sense attack. How could they accept this? However, Shi Yuan was a prodigy, after all, so it wasn't long before he dispelled the murderous aura. However, tears of blood were already streaming from his eyes, and his expression was terrifyingly twisted. Detestable brat! He spat through gritted teeth. Being defeated by someone in his field of expertise was truly a terrible feeling. Ling Han smiled faintly and said, You provoked me first, so you'll have to suffer the consequences of failure. I'm going to kill you, Shi Yuan roared as he lunged at Ling Han. He unleashed all of his powerful attacks, and the image of a 9-headed lion materialized behind him. It was as if this lion had boosted his power, causing him to become even more ferocious. Ling Han was unafraid. The primal chaos celestial core was activated, and instantly, an ancient and vicissitude aura of primal chaos surged out, causing Shi Yuan's battle prowess to drop directly by 3 heavens. However, even though he still had 20 heavens of battle prowess remaining, Shi Yuan was still able to crush Ling Han. Ling Han exchanged a blow with the other, and a deep power surged over, instantly sending him flying. He was completely outmatched. Hiss, he gritted his teeth, and felt a salty taste at the corner of his lips. When he wiped it away, it was all blood. Even if he had the primal chaos celestial core that could neutralize 6 heavens of power, he was still wounded. Couldn't be helped. The power gap was a little too wide. While he was sighing with emotion, he didn't know that the spectators had all turned green with fear. Fuck, the gap in battle prowess was at least 10 heavens, but Ling Han actually only spat out a little blood after taking a blow head-on? Was there anyone like you? Shi Yuan also faltered upon hearing this. At first, when he saw Ling Han exchange blows with him, he was filled with pleasant surprise, because he had not thought that Ling Han would seek his own death either. But he had never imagined that the latter would actually be so durable. How was this possible? This was absolutely impossible. Ling Han cracked a smile. Nothing is impossible. Come, take this. He communicated with the ley lines, stimulating the earth chi. Instantly, an earthen yellow great dragon shot out of the ground by Ling Han's feet, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Formations Grandmaster, setting up formations with steps. Ling Han wasn't that powerful, and he couldn't set up formations with steps. However, if he only had to stimulate earth chi attacks, it wouldn't be too difficult for him. What kind of celestial technique was this? Everyone's eyes widened, and just stared blankly at the great earthen yellow dragon, guessing what celestial technique Ling Han had used. In front of the true dragon, "Aren't you going to kneel down obediently, kitten?" Ling Han said with a smile. Shi Yuan roared. "You are only in the early stage of the core formation tier. Even if you can summon the true dragon, how could I be afraid of you?" He charged over, and with a swipe of his palm, it turned into 5 golden threads that sliced towards Ling Han. Ling Han smiled faintly, and maneuvered the earth dragon to greet those 5 silken threads. Shi Yuan chuckled coldly. His attacks were incredibly sharp, and they were indestructible. "Just you wait, earth dragon." Pooh! The earth dragon crashed into the silk thread, and without a doubt the silk thread broke. The earth dragon was practically unhindered, and continued to rush forwards. What? Shi Yuan's expression was extremely colorful. After a moment of shock, he hurriedly dodged. Pong! The earth dragon missed its target, and crashed into the mountain rock. However, it actually did not cause any damage and silently sank in. This made everyone extremely confused. If it was to be said that the might of this earth dragon was strong, they had all witnessed it with their own eyes. When the attack landed on the ground, no matter what, it should have caused the earth to shake and mountains to quake. It was so soundless, and so bizarre to the extreme. What kind of technique was this? Meanwhile, Ling Han shook his head. After the earth chi had condensed, it could be used to attack. This was proven. However, he was only using it at the initial stage after all. This earth dragon could not change at all and could only go straight ahead. In other words, he could only use it in a head-on confrontation. He mulled over it again. Strengthening his attainments in formations should be able to make the earth dragon become even more agile. "I don't believe this," Shi Yuan roared. He charged over again. He was at the consummate level of the core formation tier, and his battle prowess was as high as 23 heavens, ranked 27th in the galaxy network, and in a head-on confrontation he was actually inferior to Ling Han. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Ling Han smiled faintly, and pointed a finger at Shi Yuan. The earth dragon appeared once more, roaring as it blasted towards Shi Yuan. Shi Yuan didn't dare to face this attack head-on. He hurriedly turned around to dodge, and then pounced again. However, Ling Han only needed to extract more earth chi, and form another earth dragon. 1, 2, 3. There were more and more earth dragons, and only when he summoned his 17th earth dragon did the first earth dragon dissipate due to the exhaustion of earth chi, which also meant that 16 earth dragons could exist at the same time, and the battle prowess of each one of them could probably reach the true self tier. What kind of concept was that? Shi Yuan was completely unqualified to oppose him, and could only dodge. However, the earth dragon's weakness was also very obvious. It had lost its agility, and its speed was not too fast either. There was nothing it could do against Shi Yuan. It was also a sudden idea that had popped in Ling Han's mind, and that was why he had thought of condensing earth chi to form an attack. He had not thought that this effect would actually be so extraordinarily good. This was naturally all because the strength of his soul had reached the spiritual transformation tier, which was why he could extract so much earth chi. Otherwise, at most, it would only be equivalent to him having an additional imperial technique. He couldn't help but think that formation grandmasters were truly terrifying, killing people with formations and killing people with earth chi, completely not inferior to cultivators of the same level. He was sighing with emotion, yet Shi Yuan was on the verge of tears. The dignified Tao child of the nine-headed lion Holy Land, ranked 27th on the Galaxy Network, and he was actually forced to flee in a panic by a cultivator at the early stage of the core formation tier. What face would he have left? I get it. Someone suddenly slapped his thigh. This is not a celestial technique, but rather condensed from earth chi. What? Everyone exclaimed in shock. Formations Grandmaster, stimulating the ley lines and extracting earth chi. This can be called the Earth Dragon. Hence, when this attack landed on the ground, it was soundless, because the Earth Dragon originated from the ground. Impossible, such a young Formations Grandmaster? That's right. Although the cultivation level of martial arts is not considered for Formation Grandmasters, and the only factor is Formation Mastery without a strong enough soul, one wouldn't be able to touch the threshold of Grandmaster. Don't you guys tell me that the strength of this guy's soul has reached the level of at least spiritual transformation tier. Everyone discussed among themselves. The demon race here were all top-notch. Even if they themselves did not cultivate formations, there was definitely no lack of understanding. It was just that they had not thought of formations at all previously. Now that they were reminded, Ling Han's technique was instantly pieced together. Their mouths were spouting words of disbelief, but in truth, they were already certain of their own judgment. This freakish guy with freakish natural talent in martial arts was actually a Formations Grandmaster. Heavens, the heavens must have been blinded. Otherwise, how could it possibly cause a person to be so freakish? Shi Yuan had also heard the conversation between the others. He finally knew what that earthen yellow great dragon was, but knowing it was one matter, and how to resolve it was another matter. His only option was to flee. Right now, Shi Yuan only had one thought on his mind, and that was Ling Han was only at the early stage of the core formation tier after all. The strength of his soul was definitely limited. Thus, his divine sense couldn't withstand such expenditure, and it definitely wouldn't be able to last long. As a supreme prodigy, he had no lack of firm beliefs. Thus, after having this sliver of hope, he gritted his teeth and persisted, unwilling to give up. However, reality was incredibly cruel. Ling Han controlled the Earth Dragon, appearing to be extremely relaxed, and did not look like he was about to collapse at all. Fuck! You're far too freakish. Everyone was complaining endlessly. Being able to become a Formations Grandmaster when he was only in the core formation tier was already extremely inconceivable, breaking records. However, summoning so many Earth Dragons was obviously extremely exhausting on divine sense, and definitely couldn't last for too long. But Ling Han's spiritual power was like a bottomless pit, just like how battle prowess would be incredibly terrifying after combusting the Imperial blood, right? But the Imperial blood would soon be exhausted, and would not be able to last for too long. That should be the case as well. And among them, the one who felt the greatest despair was Shi Yuan. Ling Han looked completely at ease, and he was about to lose his patience. Willpower could take effect for a short period of time, allowing one to burst out with extraordinary power, but how could it last? He was really dissatisfied. Ling Han's cultivation level was far inferior to his, and in terms of battle prowess it was indeed one-sided to his advantage, but just because the latter was also a Formations Grandmaster, casually summoning a few Earth Dragons, he was beaten to the point of having no temper at all. However, what he didn't know was that Ling Han still had many ultimate moves that he hadn't used yet. For example, what if the Murderous Aura attack was combined with the Earth Dragon? Under the effects of the Murderous Aura, he would fall into a temporary state of confusion. At this time, the Earth Dragon would pounce towards him, so what could he use to block it? From this aspect, Ling Han had already been very merciful. Don't say, Ling Han is really quite a good person. Even after being provoked by Shi Yuan like this, he didn't kill him. That's right. This kind of person is really hard to come by. He can be considered benevolent. He would be a worthy friend. Everyone nodded, seeing Ling Han in a new light. However, if the large black dog had been here, he would definitely have come to a completely different conclusion. How was Ling Han benevolent? He was simply practicing his technique. This battle finally ended with Shi Yuan admitting defeat. Ling Han was still unsatisfied. He had developed the amazing use of Earth Qi, and was just about to grasp it even more proficiently. He had not thought that Shi Yuan would be so decisive. Sai, it would have been better if you had persisted a few more times. Shi Yuan could not bear to stay any longer, and left dejectedly. Meanwhile, the others began to chat with Ling Han. Their words were all very polite, expressing their desire to become friends with him. Originally, Ling Han had come from the North Heavenly Realm. This was a label of humiliation. People from the other heavenly realms would feel disdain towards him at first sight, but it was a different case now. Ling Han had already used his abilities to prove that he was extraordinary. Furthermore, such a young formation grandmaster was really too awesome. What did one need the most to explore an ancient site? Formation master. With an extraordinary formation master in the team, it could at least double the chances of survival or finding the treasure trove. Thus, no one would want to offend this kind of person. Ling Han didn't put on any airs. He chatted with the others, forming some connections. In the future, when he went to the West, East and South Heavenly Realms, he would at least have a foothold. After chatting for a while, Ling Han excused himself to rest, and arrived at the stone house that the demon race had arranged for him. Not long after, the large black dog ran over. "Little Han, you definitely couldn't expect what Grandpa Dog has found out," it said mysteriously. "Speak. You guess." "Fuck, you already said that I wouldn't think of it and still want me to guess. Just how much are you asking for a beating?" "Air." The large black dog stuck his tongue out and started to explain. As it turned out, this demon race being actually had a very deep relationship with Divine Rain Venerate as well. In the past, when Divine Rain Venerate traveled the world, he had also subdued a considerable number of powerful demonic beasts, and they became his beast pets. For demonic beasts being able to follow a Venerate tier, who was also the descendant of an ancestral king, this naturally wasn't embarrassing. Afterwards, Divine Rain Venerate unexpectedly fell in love when he passed by a place. Of course, the woman that had moved Divine Rain Venerate was by Nanjin. From then onwards, Divine Rain Venerate lost his lofty aspirations, and settled down here for a long time. In fact, he even established a small world, isolated from the rest of the world. Though those beast pets were unwilling to be mediocre, they still held onto some hope. Who knows, Divine Rain Venerate may have just lost his senses in a moment of love, and would soon come back to his senses. However, Divine Rain Venerate did not come back to his senses. Instead, he very quickly died. This scared the crap out of those beast pets. A great and mighty Venerate tier, and his lifespan was hundreds of thousands of years. Even if he couldn't live to this limit, 80,000 or 90,000 years shouldn't be a problem, right? However, when Divine Rain Venerate passed away, he was only 40,000 years old. This was clearly not right. Those beast pets suspected that it was the Bai clan's doing, and their motive was to snatch the inheritance of Divine Rain Venerate, not only Venerate tier level, but also Emperor level. Thus, the beast pets worked together to attack, wanting to take down the Bai clan. However, they discovered that Divine Rain Venerate had placed restrictions on them, preventing them from attacking humans. As a result, this battle ended noiselessly. And before the death of Divine Rain Venerate, everyone had been sealed into this small world. Thus, those beast pets could only die of depression in the end. Afterwards, the descendants of those beast pets took over the mission of their fathers, wanting to defeat the Bai clan. Firstly, to seek justice for Divine Rain Venerate, and secondly, to obtain the inheritance of Divine Rain Venerate and leave this small world. Thus, war broke out. However, the regulations of the small world were incomplete, and ultimately, the second generation of the beasts could only reach true self-tier ultimately, which was equivalent to the supreme elites of the Bai clan. Though they had the advantage in numbers and physique, the Bai clan was also protected by the precious tool left behind by Divine Rain Venerate, making them return empty-handed. And just like that, time and time again, the endless war between the human race and the demon race began. Combined with this version, Divine Reign Venerate was definitely a man with deep feelings and affection. This was completely different from the version of the Bai clan, which image was the real Divine Reign Venerate. Furthermore, if the demon race's version was true, then it was clearly illogical that Divine Reign Venerate would die at just around 40,000 years old. This kind of elite was close to touching the peak of martial arts, so how could he possibly die so young? But according to the words of the demon race, it was the Bai clan's fault? Was that possible? The Bai clan had never been a powerful force. At that time, even in fact, they were only at the level of the core formation tier. It was all thanks to the help of Divine Reign Venerate, who had nurtured a few true self-tier elites. Who would believe that this kind of force could kill a Venerate tier elite? Hence, the matter was strange. Interesting, this is really going to be interesting, Ling Han murmured. Interesting my ass, the large black dog shouted. We need to hurry up and find the sky-opening axe. With Grandpa Dog's freakishness, I'm sure I'll definitely be able to raise that axe. Ling Han nodded. They indeed had to hurry up. Otherwise, when true self-tier elites and spirit transformation tier elites came in, then whether there were treasures left behind by Divine Reign Venerate or not, it would have nothing to do with them. The problem is, how can we make the Bai clan hand over the sky-opening axe? The forces of the demon race are even more powerful. Thus, rather than satisfying the conditions of the Bai clan and completely eliminating the demon race, why don't we turn the tables and unite the demon race together, joining forces to attack the Bai clan, forcing the Bai clan to reveal the location of the sky-opening axe? That's possible. The large black dog went to look for the blue demon tiger king again. He wanted to convince this demon king, and then join forces with the other demon kings to launch an attack together. The demonic beasts could not penetrate into the imperial capital. There were treasures left behind by Divine Reign Venerate there to guard it. But Ling Han thought that since the formations of Zimming Mountain were gradually losing their effectiveness, the spirit tool or formations that guarded the imperial capital should also be beginning to lose their effectiveness. Thus, if they launched an attack now, they should be able to take down the imperial capital. The Blue Demon Tiger King was very decisive, and immediately decided to invite the other demon kings. The demon race had an obsession that was close to madness when it came to conquering the imperial capital. Thus, after knowing that the trump card of the imperial capital could possibly be weakened, how could they still remain calm? Not many days later, the various envoys that had been sent out returned with news. They would join in battle. The Blue Demon Tiger King immediately mobilized his troops. The great demon kings would meet up outside the imperial capital, and after completing the gathering of troops, they would then attack the imperial capital. The outsiders naturally followed. For them, this was their last chance. If they still couldn't conquer the imperial capital this time, then a large number of true self-tier elites would soon come, so there naturally wouldn't be anything left for them. Outside the imperial city, the great demonic beasts had all gathered, and added with the considerable number of outsider demonic beasts, their lineup was extremely shocking. By Xiangming, immediately open the city gates and surrender, a demon king shouted loudly. He was the horse king, and his lower body was still in the shape of a horse, digging out his four hooves loudly. Demonic race, you have attacked the city time and time again, but when have you ever succeeded? On top of the city wall, City King, Chen Lang appeared. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking down on all the demons. Don't waste your breath on him. Kill him, the Bear King said. Each of his hands held a golden purple hammer, and when they touched each other, Kwang, a terrifying wave was instantly created. Boys, charge with me. The Bear King was the first to charge over. On the city wall, the City King smirked coldly. All the cities of the human race had defenses laid out by Divine Reign Venerate, especially the imperial capital, which was not something that a true self-tier could break through at all. As expected, when the Bear King approached, a flash of light slashed out from within the city. Pooh, even someone as strong as the Bear King was hit. His chest was struck, and blood spurted out madly. Ha ha ha! City King sneered. Ignorance! This was practically courting death, and he still dared to think of fighting his way into the city? When the demon kings saw this, they all frowned. The defenses of the humans had not weakened at all. This time, they would return empty-handed again. At this time, the Bear King had also been saved. His face was pale like a piece of golden paper, which was very frightening. "Don't retreat." Yet the Bear King spoke up. "I can feel that the might of that spirit tool has weakened considerably. Otherwise, my injuries would probably be a few times worse." "Really?" All the demon kings perked up. "If anyone doesn't believe me, then battle me for 300 rounds. The Bear King stood up with great difficulty, brandishing its twin hammers, looking incredibly rough. "All right, we will continue to besiege them." All the demon kings nodded and decided not to retreat. Seeing the demon race encircle and not attack, the humans on the city wall were all slightly puzzled. This was illogical. Human prodigies such as Lu Qi and Feng Jixing also appeared on the city wall, wearing puzzled expressions. The natives here had already battled countless times, and it could be said that they knew each other very well. However, the present battle situation was illogical. That must be because of the outsiders, which had led to a variable. What on earth were these people trying to do? After the demonic beasts surrounded the city for a while, they launched an attack from afar to test the might of the city defense. Hong! 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 Multiple attacks were launched, but the spirit tool in the city would channel on its own every time, slashing out fierce light, completely destroying all the attacks that assaulted it. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and by the 4th day, everyone shockingly discovered that the light that was shot out was gradually becoming weaker. Some attacks had been intercepted, yet did not disintegrate. They still shot over and blasted onto the city walls, causing considerable damage. "Great!" The members of the demon race all cheered, and the expressions of the generals and soldiers of the Galewind nation changed drastically. After so many years, this was the first time that they discovered that the precious treasure that guarded the city would actually be useless one day. "Boys, fight for me. Make the barrage even fiercer." All the demon kings roared loudly. Even the Bear King had returned. He had already recovered 60 to 70% and was completely capable of fighting again. It could be clearly seen that the city-guarding spirit tool was becoming weaker and weaker, and the power of the light it shot out was becoming weaker and weaker, causing even more attacks to land on the city walls, and also caused the city walls to sway slightly. "Prepare to charge!" The great demon kings all shouted. The obsessions of their ancestors and fathers were finally about to be fulfilled in their hands. In the end, the city-guarding treasure was completely useless, and no more streak of light slashed out. "Charge!" Instantly, the demonic race launched an assault. Thousands of demonic beasts charged towards the city wall. This was really a stampede of 10,000 beasts. Hong long long. The ground was wailing, raising clouds of dust that covered the skies. Shio, shio, shio. On the city wall, countless crossbow bolts shot down, turning into a rain of arrows. Mere tricks. The Horse King soared into the skies, turning into a massive Pegasus. It opened its mouth and spat out a screen of light, which instantly blocked all the arrows that filled the skies. "Horse King, let me fight you." Sea City King also shot into the skies and began a fierce battle with Horse King. In the human race, more and more elites appeared. The demon race had already launched an all-out offensive. At this time, no one could just sit by and watch. Even the emperor of the Galewind nation, Bai Xiangming, had also stepped into battle. His battle prowess was incredibly powerful, and he actually managed to block 2 demon kings by himself. It should be known that the individual battle prowess of the demon race was superior to the human race. Usually, only the demon king would be able to fight 1 against 2, or even in fact against 3, but this Bai Xiangming was actually capable of being so strong. Ling Han looked at him for a while, and realization dawned on him. It wasn't that Bai Xiangming was powerful, but rather that the battle armor he was wearing was a high-grade precious tool that had boosted his astonishing power, allowing him to possess such awesome battle prowess. Was this left behind by Divine Rain Venerate? But even if Bai Xiangming was so strong, faced with this vast army of demon race, he was still unable to turn the situation around. There were too many demonic beasts. He would have to block at least 10 of them to be able to balance out the battle prowess of the true self-tier elites on both sides. However, this was obviously unrealistic. Thus, the human race was slowly being defeated. The outsiders all knew their limits. In this kind of situation, they naturally had to prioritize self-preservation. They had no reason or position to risk their lives. After less than half a day, the human race was routed. Bai Xiangming had no choice but to surrender. "Hand over the sky-opening axe!" The demonic beasts shouted one after another. They naturally hoped to obtain the inheritance of Divine Reign Venerate, and they also thought that they were the true heirs of Divine Reign Venerate. The Bai clan? They were just the culprits. Bai Xiangming shook his head and said, "I only know where the sky-opening axe is, but I can't pick it up." True, if he could pick it up, he would have long since obtained the inheritance of Venerate Divine Reign Venerate. Could there still be so many things going on? All the demon kings escorted Bai Xiangming to find the sky-opening axe. The outsiders followed him one after another. Whether it was the humans or the demon race, this was a battle that had nothing to do with them. Their only purpose was to obtain the inheritance of Divine Reign Venerate. The demon kings knew that these outsiders had astonishing backgrounds, so they didn't press them. It wasn't long before they arrived at the foot of a tall mountain behind the imperial palace. Bai Xiangming activated several layers of formations, and finally, a platform with a radius of around 21 meters appeared before them. In the middle of the platform, a short-handled axe had struck the platform. "That is the sky-opening axe?" All the demon king's eyes were burning, and the eyes of the outsiders lit up as well. This was related to the inheritance of a Venerate tier elite, and may even be related to the imperial technique. "That's right." Bai Xiangming nodded. However, to say nothing of picking up the axe, there are not many that can even walk to the front of the sky-opening axe. "Ha! I don't believe it." The Bear King immediately jumped out. He was really an impatient person. Previously, he dared to charge even against the city-guarding spirit tool, what more now? However, he had just rushed onto the platform, when his figure immediately slowed down. His whole face was wrinkled, as if he was using all his might. Even so, after taking a few steps, he could no longer move. "Old Bear, what's going on?" a demon king asked. The Bear King did not answer. Instead, Bai Xiangming spoke up and said, "The gravity fields on this platform are incredibly terrifying. Furthermore, due to the change in cultivation level, the higher the cultivation level, the greater the gravity fields." So that was the case. At this moment, the outsiders were all rubbing their fists in anticipation. Under such conditions, the true self-tier elites wouldn't be able to gain any advantage at all, and they would have a chance. The demonic beasts refused to give up, and they all leaped onto the platform. They were much stronger than humans at the same cultivation level, so there was no reason that they couldn't do the same. However, these demon kings had only rushed forward a few steps, when they were defeated just like the Bear King. "Ha ha ha!" The outsiders roared with laughter as they entered the arena.